Without the microphone. Sorry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
All right, so sorry about the roll call with no mic. So we're going to move right into the discussion of the superintendent's recommended 2026-2027 budget request. Before I All right, so I know that we have two board members who are dealing with family health issues, personal health issues today. I do believe, there, Mr. Asa is present as well in terms of roll call. Thank you, Mr. Asa. And so we will begin. We're just going to go straight down in order of the budget. So we're going to begin with reviewing section of the budget drivers, the historical data on pages 1 and 2. Any questions? And generally, just for the new board members, we have lengthy pauses as well because some of you might, whether you have seen the responses in front of you, just to give people a minute also to look at that. Take a quick look back at the book to see if there are any unanswered questions. So once again, historical data. Mrs. Jacobson.
I'll jump to A2 just for an easier question to start out with. The citation, sorry if I wasn't clear. Can you provide the link on this sheet for a follow-up? I can put it into the sheet as a follow-up, but just a heads up if we can get the link to that citation, please. Thank you. All right, jumping to A1. So I'm just looking to understand what happened here. So A1 is that the current year revised budget numbers haven't been adjusted to align with changes in FTE. So that's what I was getting at with A1. I've never seen this in, I don't know, 19, 20 years of doing budget books in this town. So can you help us understand why the current modified wasn't changed to the modified budget? I don't know who to ask. Sorry, Mrs. Maxon-Kennelly. Do I go through you to?
We go to superintendent.
Yeah.
It's the superintendent's prerogative to shift it to a staff member.
Okay.
So our understanding is that you're asking why the dollar amount from the adopted budget hasn't changed, even though the FTE has.
Or any salary changes, even if the FTE hasn't changed. What the current estimate is, basically.
Right. So as we answered, and feel free, Frank or Terry, to jump in, is that we haven't asked the board to transfer any money out as of yet, because we don't know if we need to transfer money out, which we'll get a better understanding when we present the Q2 report. And as you know, we usually wait till after Q3 to ask the board for transfers to areas we may be short, or if there's going to be a potential. Our plan is to work with the board later on in the spring on a list of priorities, if there is any surplus dollars, on what those priorities would be.
Okay, so that's why that column is usually called an estimate. So just so we're clear, you changed the FTE. Are you paying them a different salary then? Therefore, those numbers absolutely have changed if you've changed the FTE.
Correct. Go ahead, and
Okay.
Frank, jump in.
Yeah, the numbers. So, and I'm not as familiar with past practices, but the numbers would change, but we'd have to make the budget transfer. So I don't know if we haven't done those budget transfers yet. So that's
a transfer. That's right. So usually that column is an estimate, right?
I don't know from other budget books. Yeah.
That column generally is the revised after transfers would happen.
No, it's not. It's
So
not.
My experience and what we presented, that's how the numbers were derived in the past. I can't speak to prior to.
So like
prior
just going at it, teaching staff, we've dropped 6.2 FTE for the first number, but you haven't changed the number in the next column. Right.
Correct, because that's the adopted budget. That was what was adopted. Yes, there's an estimate that would be a savings in that account that will show in Q2. But as far as what the revised amount is at this point, that's part of the adopted budget. So that would stay in that column. That's been my experience. That's how it's been presented in the past.
No, that it has not been the way it's presented in the past. Sorry, Mrs. Mexican.
No. I
Yes.
just to clarify what Mrs. Jacobson, obviously that's the difficult part of this is that other towns will do it differently. And so completely respecting your prior position, what Mrs. Jacobson is capturing is what our past budget books have looked like, neither of which you were involved in making. And so that's what Mrs. Jacobson is reacting to, is just that this is different information. I think the important information we do have is the FTE, so that this is what we budgeted for, this is what we currently have, then there's the ask for next year's budget. So we do have that information to work with.
Correct.
It is just a little startling for us who have looked at past budget books, because normally we would have had an estimate of where is it going. Now, we're going to get that with Q2, and that will be relevant to our surplus discussion. And if it's looking like we're having one, but just to Mrs. Jacobson's point, our past budget books had a column that with this reduction, it is looking like this is the amount that will use, even though even prior to any transfer taking place. So it was just a different practice that we've had in the past. So again, the important thing at least is that we have the
The money
FTE count.
hasn't left the accounts. They're still in the accounts and they'll show as surpluses. So that's why it shows in that way at this time.
Okay, so that's, all right, so, then if this isn't gonna change, normally we do that next meeting, so is that coming to us this week then?
That had not been our plan because the finance committee hasn't seen it yet. We'd gone to the Board of Finance schedule when we were allocating the agenda items and the scheduling for the finance committee. So we had taken when the Board of Finances get it, backtracked to making sure when we were having a board meeting prior to that and scheduling a finance committee before that. So we actually had it on tap for the first week in February, for the first February meeting.
Okay, so that's a little bit complicated. So are you telling us that we won't have a Q2 report or any estimated on our current budget before we vote on this budget?
Correct.
Okay. That's gonna be, can we just not get the report before we have it on the agenda?
At this point, it hasn't been completed yet. I don't think that would
Is there any
be
reason?
a problem, because they've had a budget book to finish and the quarter only finished.
Can we have it before?
fewer than 2 weeks ago.
Next week? I mean, it's always in January, so.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to say yes because at least I've been here less than a month and, Terry's been keeping everything afloat, but we do have to answer questions and there are just the ongoing operations that we have to deal with. So I can try to get it to you by the next meeting. I just have to take a look at that, but we were working on a different timeline, but we can do our best.
Okay, all
I
right, thank
also,
you.
and just to add, because when we had the discussion on walking it back from the Board of Finances meeting, we did note, I believe 2 years ago, that the Q2 was given on the night of the budget vote itself. So that's why it didn't seem like an urgent matter when just.
And to be clear, 2 out of the past 6 years, it's been on the night of the budget vote.
And
Correct.
before that, it was before the budget vote, right? It was never after the budget vote.
Correct.
I'm done on that page.
Okay, Mrs. Flynn.
I just want to make a note that that's absolutely true that the Q2 was presented on the night of the budget vote. The piece that's missing there is that it was previewed by the finance committee and those documents were also available to the board and to the public the Friday before the meeting.
Sorry, just to follow up, and we also had a budget book that showed us what the estimate was.
But I acknowledge all of those points. There is nothing that is attempting to be hidden from board members. I would still argue that it's one thing to be talking about the surplus, which is a Q2 report, a Q2 discussion. The FTE information, however, in terms of budgeted, actual, and projected need, that's the important part of our discussion. So knowing how much we are saving in a certain area isn't exactly relevant to next year's budget. It is relevant to what are our budgeting needs of this school year. Are we going to have a shortfall? Are we going to have a surplus? I do not in any way denigrate the interest in having that information. That's perfectly fine. I'm just saying it's not what we need for this budget discussion in terms of approving next year's budget. Any other, Mr. Krasnoff?
Just to simplify it, I think it's more the percentage changes that typically we'd see differently. And neither here nor there, at the end of the day, does it matter? Probably not, but if we could get the numbers, it will help us look to, just looking at the percentage changes, increases and decreases. Appreciate it.
Well, just so that I'm clear on the question, Mr. Krasnov, so we have the percentage changes of what we budgeted for this year versus what's being budgeted for next year.
But we don't have an idea of the change versus the actual.
So could I just ask a question?
That's the big
For
piece.
clarification purposes. So would that column have generally added up to the adopted budget? No, so you would want to see the surplus at that bottom line, is what you're saying, or deficit. I hope, no deficit. I don't operate on a deficit. Okay, just to understand.
Mr. Krasnov, all set? Okay, Mrs. Flynn.
I would just, is the intent to keep the budget book as it is to the chair?
Well, I'm not sure of the argument for
Oh, I'm
reprinting an
not-
entire
I'm
budget
not
book
I'm not
Okay.
making an argument yet. Is the intent to keep the book as it is?
until we vote on it.
Okay. I would heavily, heavily encourage everybody to give some kind of heads up to our other town bodies, because this book looks incredibly different than it's looked in the past. And the way that I've been doing this budget for 10 years, some people up here have been doing it for 20. I've gone back and looked. This is the first year it doesn't have it in here. So we're asking the questions. We got through it in 11 minutes. I would hearken you to be prepared for Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen differently.
Sorry, I'm just making note of your point. Okay. Any other questions on historical data? Okay, agenda item 3B, review of section of the executive summary. This is of pages 3 and 4. Any questions? And just pausing for a moment. Mrs. Flynn.
Just through the chair to Mr. Testani, we funded, I'm following up on one of Ms. Jacobson's questions, C4. In our current budget, we funded a math administrator at the executive director position.
Ms. Flynn, we're on pages 3 and 4.
Oh, 3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay.
I went way too far.
Well, no,
I
it's odd
apologize.
because in our budget doc,
I'm
we
doing the
combined
other
pages
one.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
I'll come back to it.
It's all right. Anybody else just on pages 3 and 4? All right, then moving on to agenda item 3C, which is review of section staff salaries, pages 5 through 47, as well as many other pages giving additional detail deep into the book. Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm following up on C4, Ms. Jacobson's question. So last year we funded at the executive director position, a math administrator that was reduced to a program director. I would just like to hear through the chair to Mr. Testani, the thinking behind that change. At the moment now, the only executive director that we have is in one subject area, and kind of your thought process moving forward in that direction.
Yeah, the only executive director technically is Ms. Goss's position. And she handles the literacy. And that was the title she had when I arrived. The executive director level position, because there was some other responsibilities that went along with it, that's why Dr. Danishevsky's position was elevated. Dr. Charles is simply doing mathematics, and so we put it back in the collective bargaining unit.
Okay, I would just hearken that, we funded that position in January at the executive position. It was changed. We just got a data presentation on our math program. If that need was different, I just don't know how that was identified in 4 weeks after us passing the budget. It just seemed a little confusing to me. So I also have concerns Is that, do you feel like you're gonna go that for all academic areas? Do you feel like that they would be better placed in program directors?
No, that's not what I said. I mean, we have a program director for science. We have a program director that supports ELA at the secondary level.
Mhm.
And now we have a program director for math. The executive director for literacy is a much larger undertaking, as we know, through what the work that's been done over the last couple of years. But I can't speak to why that was an executive director role. But as time goes by and more information is learned, there may be adjustments to people's roles and responsibilities.
Thank you.
I mean, just to note that, um, there was not wholesale changes that occurred when I became superintendent, and that is usually the case. But we've tried to keep things consistent. I believe in consistency wherever possible, and we have some capable folks, more than capable folks, and we continue to operate the district, and we make incremental changes where needed.
And I'm not insinuating we have a wonderful staff. It's just a change, and the budget passed in January, and this was changed pretty quickly afterwards. So I think, in terms of, these are public tax dollars, and we are charged with the oversight of that. So just understanding the roles and responsibilities is important.
Mrs. Jacobson.
Thank you. I'm going to follow up on that as well. So there was a wholesale change because we had two individuals in these roles when you came on board. It was your idea to create the executive director of math and science in lieu of those two positions. The position was requested, we funded it, and 2 weeks into the fiscal year, it was changed. So my questions following up is there a job description that we can get sent to us for the program director of math versus the executive director position that we funded this year? Would that be possible, Mr. Testani?
Sure.
Okay. And there is a variance in that salary, correct? I'm sorry, sorry to through you to the superintendent.
There is a slight variance. It's savings.
Right. So that would be a surplus in that line, right?
There would be a savings to that position from what the previous person was paid to the current.
All right. Thank
I don't know the exact number, but I would probably venture to say 6 or 7% maybe. Um, Not significant.
Okay, other questions in staff salaries, pages 5 to 47, as well as all supporting pages. Sorry, Mrs. Flynn.
Hi there. Just through the chair, I think this may be to Mr. Mancusi. There's a bunch of questions on here. The first one begins on C7 about just the shift from paraprofessionals to behavior technicians. I'd just love to hear a little bit more about that and that continued need.
Yes, I don't think that need's going to be going away, as we've talked about several times. This year, we have, continued to be challenged by some students with significant behaviors that we continue to have difficulty outplacing, or that we continue to try to maintain programming in district. So if we have some vacancies in certain positions, we have been able to contract for behavior technicians to maintain programming in district for several students.
Can I get clarification? And maybe Mrs. Flynn was going to ask this. Are behavior technicians something we have ever budgeted for, or are they always something that's been an outsourced consultant position?
Behavior technicians come with a different level of training. We this year
Because
have
I've never heard of it before. That's why I'm asking the question.
we were able to convert some positions to behavior technicians in the budget this year. We've not budgeted specifically for behavior technicians. They do require a higher level of training that our contracted services providers oversee and provide that we don't have to provide. So that's why we contract for them. And the supervision involved in overseeing that level of support.
Sure, Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you for the insight for those who aren't in the special education world. It's a vital, vital tool. I don't know if this is possible. Ms. Jacobson's question actually kind of inspired me. A job description or kind of like some insight into the role might be helpful for board members. It's a newer role that you guys are, I just think it would be great. I think it's very helpful for the district. And to Ms. Maxon Kennelly's point, it's never been its own independent line. It's been something we contract. I just think it'd be great to learn more about. So thank you for including it.
And to follow up on my own question, I haven't read the contract. Again, I was focused on the pages for today. So if that's going to be part of contracted services, I just haven't gotten to that yet. But again, just to reiterate, is that a Fairfield Public Schools employee or is it contracted services who have the oversight? And so what we're discussing here through Mrs. Flynn is paras who are being elevated and then, because that's not something that's covered by their union.
Right now, it's a contracted service.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions and staff salaries. Mrs. Jacobson.
So I was just looking for a clarification on C8 for the custodians. What was the 77 supposed to mean? In your answer?
It said, it was, what is the current year 25-26 estimate?
Oh,
for
you were
this
asking,
category?
that was the FTE count?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the FTE count. So the FTE count in the narrative is flat. However, there are changes to some of the custodian salaries this year, aren't there?
Yes, there probably would be. I mean, I would imagine there may be changes of step movement or maybe some sort of GWI increase.
Well, but right now they're operating on their June 2025 contract.
Correct, yes.
So that's why they would not reflect any changes yet. It would be in the wage and
Yeah,
benefit reserve.
unless somebody got a step, but theoretically that would be budgeted.
Mm.
So if you go to the custodians pages, starting on page 30, folks, you're gonna see there's no FTE change, but the amount for next year is going down in some instances, some are going up. So can we just explain that set of data there?
I mean, if
So
you
like
have,
Dwight is 111. It's flat. Burr is 1.5, 1.5, but it's going down.
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's, if you have turnover in, if you have people that have been here for a long time and are a higher step, they turn over. And then they come, and then you hire somebody at a lower step, then you're gonna see savings in a
So
line.
you're anticipating a retirement at Burr.
What, can you specify the line you're referring to where?
Sure,
it's saying-
custodian Burr. 75,401 from 84,700 this year.
Let's see. What page is that on?
Just trying to understand some of the
I'm
custodian
gonna jump
numbers.
in and help
Yeah,
on
and this
this
might
one.
be a follow-up that we can
Yeah,
do next
but-
week if
No,
necessary.
But I'm gonna jump in
Well-
because not necessarily there's a retirement at Burr, but we do move folks around from year to year occasionally. So there may be a retirement at Burr and we shift someone else within the bargaining unit who wants to go to Burr and we hire in a different location. We've had folks that get promoted within the department and have to hire. So, I mean, these are just little things that are just part of the daily operations that
That
could impact the
could also be
cost.
resignations.
Yes.
There could be,
Okay.
they don't necessarily retire. They could resign to go to another district and there's savings there because the person hired could be on the first step. We'd have to look at that specific line and those specific examples.
Okay, so the explanation on the variances for next year, up or down, are based on a variety of factors, including moving custodians around or retirements and expecting to hire someone at a lower scale. Or promotions for higher numbers.
Promotions, resignations, I mean,
That proposed line reflects who's actually in those roles and the salary that they're making. And because the
In the
contract
26,
is not
27?
in 25, 26, because the contract has not been settled, the allocation for those increases in salary would live in wage and benefit reserve at this point in time.
So those numbers could change for next year based on the settlement, and that money that would, if it increases, will go out of the wage and reserve.
Correct.
Thank you. Want me to keep going? Oh, I do? Okay, sorry. C15, I had just asked a question because there's a new line here, for the retirement payout. We don't have that current, it's a new line in this proposed budget book. But I'm just wondering, that must have been captured somewhere else, but that answer is not in your narrative on page 8. I know what it's for. I'm asking, where was it captured before?
It wouldn't have been captured before because that was new as part of the current collective bargaining agreement that we negotiated.
This is the first year for the buyout?
First year that we're able to budget for the buyout because the previous, um, yeah, first year that we could actually put it in the
Okay.
budget, correct.
So in prior years, it was probably captured in the wage.
It wasn't
benefit,
captured, they didn't have that benefit.
or it was in the part of the wage and benefit reserve.
No, but it wasn't
Okay.
a benefit.
Okay.
That was just in the new contract that we negotiated that was settled, what was that, November of 23, Mrs. Jacobson, I believe we settled it, or no, 24.
Fiscal
23
year
or 20.
24 to fiscal year 27, so yeah. Yeah. You want to let somebody else go while I keep going?
I'll jump in for a few while Mrs. Jacobson
Sure.
looks at her next set. This was just and this is hardly a large budget item, but this is sorry? That's what I was getting at. So this was Mrs. Flynn's question C75 regarding the SEL stipend. And I was hoping, and I asked the question rather abruptly, which is simply, what is the value of this stipended position? But obviously at the time that we supported it, but now I'm trying to get kind of a new feeling of, why are we continuing with this? What value is it providing to our educational offerings?
The SEL stipend, it's $2,000 per teacher at each school. The high schools get 2 each. And this includes WFC and the ECC. So there is a total of 20 SEL stipends for $40,000 in total of SEL stipends. This past year, not every building was able to identify somebody who was able to support the school and support the principal in implementing, and supporting SEL initiatives in the building. We're working through the climate committee with the SEL teacher leaders this year to be able to have each school be able to assist in rolling out our new SEL resource. That's why it's back up to $40,000, and that's why it was not at $40,000 for this current year.
And I appreciate the numbers. I guess if we're able to do without it, clearly at a number of our schools, and
I
we
would
do have
say
counselors, and we do have social workers and psychologists, and we do have a relatively new in the past couple of years, additional central office administrator for this. So I unfortunately have to go back to the wording I use, which is the value. Like, what is this doing that we can't take care of aside from that as a stipend?
I think it's a good question, and I appreciate the question.
Okay.
I think if you ask the principals, they would say the quality of the SEL support or programming in the buildings with the invested staff who are supporting implementation of SEL initiatives in the building is much greater when they have, one of their certified staff members working with colleagues versus the principal, carrying that load by themselves or with their assistant.
Okay, thank you. Follow up to that? Yes, Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you. Thank you for the insight. I was just thinking similar to, I think I remember it was the data specialist that we didn't get. I believe our high school principals were here and came up to speak on the night of our budget vote, and it was very impactful. So maybe just through the chair to Mr. Chisani, to Mr. Kuzi, it might be helpful just to get some insight from our principals and our APs from the schools that do have the staff that has these stipends, what they are utilizing and what initiatives are being pushed through. Because to me, this was kind of be an equity thing. It's not really based on what the role is, it's if your school has it or not.
They all have the opportunity. We budgeted for everyone. I don't know if there's certain buildings that the principal or the assistant principal couldn't find anyone and they took the lead themselves. I mean, it is a small stipend of $2,000. And I'm gonna guess, because there was, one of the schools in particular that we know of, couldn't find anybody. So the principal does it on his own.
My point was being that I think it is value. I want to show the value at the schools that it is being done so that we continue to fully fund it. So if there is a new teacher that wanted to take that opportunity, we would still have it.
And just as much, I know, I think Mrs. Flynn's example of the data coordinator is perfect because I was the one who had brought forward the amendment to cut that position and, made the motion, but I could not agree more with Mrs. Flynn. The stories we finally got the night of that vote, it changed everybody's mind. I think I still voted against it, but that was more stubbornness. I fully acknowledged that there had been a great case made for the need, and I don't feel a case has been, and I completely acknowledge Mr. Testani's point. This is hardly a big budget item, but if we're going in looking through line by line at what can we defend, I would have a hard time defending that right now. I think we have people in place who can do that job. But I acknowledge Mrs. Flynn's point. I also am lacking some specific examples. So I'll leave that with you. The one other question I had in salaries, and Mrs. Jacobson had submitted the question. I provided a follow-up, and that was question C81. And I acknowledge, Mr. McNary, your answer regarding page 172. And so I'm going to reiterate the request for this page because I think it would be incredibly helpful. And the best thing I can suggest is that, Ms. Jacobson, you list, yes, if you look at page 185 in last year's budget book, that makes it very clear in terms of the cross. It's sort of like when we bring up a new policy, the black language is what was, the red language is what we are now proposing. And I acknowledge your answer. It just, whenever we're seeing all of the answers that include this was changed from 105 to 107, et cetera, it's much harder for the layman to follow you. So if you look on page one, it is 185, right, Mrs. Jacobson?
I put in that.
Yeah, so that would give you a model of exactly what was being asked, and I personally would find that extremely helpful to have. Go ahead.
Yeah, so as part of the FTE analysis attachment, there are, and it would be included in your attachment packets, there are analyses that are similar to that page. So I would just see if maybe that answers the question. It's not in the format of that page. Yeah.
And yet, no.
But if that answers the question, otherwise we can make the similar format, and that would be.
So obviously I'll have to look at this, so then that'll be on me. I'll follow up.
158, unless it was 158 actually. So did I inverse an 8 and a 5?
Yes, it says 185
Okay,
here.
so for everyone,
Page-
change it to page 150.
Oh, no. Page one, yes. I'm happy to look at this. I will only say that I have a feeling I'm going to come back to you and ask,
Okay.
hold on, Mrs. Jacobson will look at the page, and then, as I said,
That was 2 years ago. Sorry.
those are the page numbers of 2 years ago?
Yep, it is 184.
Okay, 184, if you could take a look, and thank you for this. It would just be a nice one pager. But again, I'm happy to take a look at what you gave us and see if that gives me the information, but just to have it in one place was very helpful. So that's it. Oops, that's it for me. Back to staff. Oh, sorry, Mr.
Yeah, I
Testani.
just want a quick question on the SEL stipends. Would it be okay if we provided a link to a document where principals can write a narrative to, rather than have them come here and speak to it?
I do not need staff to come here in any way, shape, or form.
Okay,
Any
thank
kind
you.
of feedback from them is, I just want to hear from them. I don't
Okay.
care in what format that is.
And since
That-
I'm.
Yeah,
the
they don't
one
have to
who-
come
yes.
here. No,
That-
no, 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 no,
That's
no,
why
no,
I
no, no.
asked. All right, thank you.
Yeah, as I recall, with the data coordinator, the person, they kind of had to come that night because it was also the night of the vote. So, no, that would be fine. So again, I'm pausing to give everyone time to finish going through the question and answer. I do remind you, and I said this a week ago when you got it, and myself and I think, and Mrs. O'Neill, I know, submitted something in the follow-up questions column so that as you have more time to ruminate on this, by all means, you can add there. So this isn't a dead document or section of on staff salaries just because we're talking about it tonight. Mrs. Jacobson.
I'm gonna go to C22, and then I'm gonna actually, point to you to your budget book pages of, 21. And I, also looked at the reference and I'm just not understanding the answer here on this sheet. So I understand that under 60, the program director increase was the math person, but what was the admin pupil services project, um, program director that was reduced in pupil services for next year?
The position that was held by Zoe Doland as an elementary school special education program director. She took the vacant position at Riverfield as the assistant principal. Mr. Mancusi and I discussed just some reorganization within his program directors and felt that we could operate without the additional individual position.
That was, I'm sorry, K5 sped?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That helped. All right, so the, C24, sorry, Mrs. Maxon Kennelly, should I keep going? Okay. 624, all right, so this goes to, all right. This is finance support. So the shift is that, just so we're all clear, you're cutting a finance support position and adding an assistant director of finance, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So currently, the finance support role is almost $93,000. And the new position, is budgeted next year for 150. Do I have that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so, it's an FTE swap, but just so I'm clear on the finances, it's a $57,318 increase.
Not entirely because the finance support person took health insurance benefits. The assistant director is not taking health insurance.
But this is
benefits.
just on salaries.
Correct, but it's also reflected in the benefits line, so you won't see it here.
Okay, well, we're on salaries. So, okay, so
I-
just want to understand, it's the same FTE, but you're swapping the support role for this new role, the
Correct.
proposal. Okay. Going back to the behavior technicians on C26, just really clear, are we, sorry, and you can nod if need to. I just want to understand, because of the change in the FTE from this year to the modified to next year, the behavior technicians are saying, but plus you're going back to the +3 paras, that's if I'm understanding correctly. So the trade-off this year was the less paras for the behavior techs, but next year you want both. Mhm.
That is unprojected. Coming, so yeah.
Okay. And you didn't need those 3 paras this year for those people who have moved into the district?
definitely is. I can say, can we have? Oh, I apologize. I hope everybody heard me while I was talking.
We did. All right, so
Um,
just to clarify,
so-
I understand the explanation. I'm just clarifying on the count. It's +2 for the behavior tax,
Yes,
bringing the pairs back up whole from what they are now.
correct.
Okay.
We couldn't hear you online.
Oh,
So the microphones are, we're fine hearing you, but for the three of you at the table, definitely the microphones need to be on and the microphone needs to be relatively close to your mouth. Thank you, Mr. Asa. Mr. Krasnoff. Actually, hold on, I apologize. Mrs. Jacobson, you okay?
well, I'll let other people
Okay,
go for now.
Mr. Krasnoff.
I am gonna have more.
Thank you. I just have C51, Ms. Jacobson's question. About the music secretary role and the position changing from 10.5 to a 12-month position. We received quite a few emails pertaining to this position. I figured it'd be a good opportunity to clarify the support the music department will still get from this position, so the public is aware, and to make sure that they are going to receive the same support that they were getting previously.
Sure, we had a clerical person retire from the instructional department. Um, This was something that we had discussed even several months ago prior to even being notified of the retirement as to why one department has exclusively rights to a clerical. And by making the shift, the individual goes from a 10.5 month clerical to a 12 to help do a lot of the work that is done over the summer, that was being done over the summer additionally. And as everyone is aware, I could see maybe in years past that there was clerical support given the fact that Mr. Hughes's role was a teacher role prior, so he had limited hours contractually he could work and also limited days he could work based on the teacher contract. We changed that to an admin role, which does not limit his days. Well, it does somewhat, but not to the extent of a teacher, and he has no beginning or start to his end day, like it's spelled out. So we have more than enough support for the music department. For example, today, there was work that needed to be done where instruments needed to be reconditioned. The clericals went over for an hour in the morning over to Ward so that those instruments could be picked up by the vendor and whatever else needed to be done, inventoried prior to pickup and then returned back here to the office. So that there's nothing that's not being done, so to speak, in this shift in roles, but it does save the district money.
All right, Mrs. Flynn?
Thank you. Where was that role previously housed?
Fairfield Ward High School.
And
It's now here, correct?
I just, I also think it's a misnomer. We do have secretarial support for some of our programmatics. We have secretarial support for our athletic department, very much needed. We have clerical support for other departments. I don't want to get into pitting things, like programs against each other. I really don't like that type of thinking. I just really struggle with I know they handle, I believe, maybe a job description for this would be good, number one, to see exactly what that they do. Just to make sure that we are covering, because a lot of the music department needs seem to be family and student related. And I would just want to see justification from moving something out of one of our buildings to central office. That's kind of my main, I totally appreciate wanting to save the district funds and utilize, but could they be housed at a school build, like you said, they just had to go to Ward to pick up all the instruments and do all the things. If they're very student and family related, what's the thought process of moving them to central
They went to
office?
Ward because that's where the instruments were being picked up. They weren't picking up instruments and bringing them here. There's music in every building, so to have it housed at Ward, there was just space there, I'm sure, years ago. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that person serviced Ward High School. So where they actually sit doesn't really make a difference. They could be sitting here at central office, Ward High School, Fairfield Woods. The needs of the district or of the department are still being met. I don't see any issue with it. And you mentioned the athletics. We have a secretary that alternates between two locations. There's daily decisions and work that has to be done in the athletic department, as everyone sitting here is aware. That's not the case in the music department.
Okay.
Mr. Hughes's office is still at Ward High School.
Okay. I think I would just follow up to just request through the chair a job description for that role, just so we can see what that is. Thank you.
Mrs. Jacobson.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I did ask for a job description, so if we could get the current one and the new one, that would be helpful. This is a very low level, low age position. What's the salary differential to take it up to the 12 months?
Whatever, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head.
Do you have a number for this role at central office?
Sorry, I'm just taking notes. and we're
Sure,
looking
just
up
what the
some
new
other things.
salary is
Can-
for this person.
We could look at
What
the
part-
collective
yeah.
bargaining agreement to see what a 12-month compared to the 10.5 month would be.
Yeah, I could follow up with that. if
Okay,
that's
that would be great. I can do a follow-up on the salary. So I also asked for, I mean, maybe that will come out in the job description, Mr. Testani. So I'll wait to get that, but I was pretty much more specific in terms of this role is right now 100%, 10.5 dedicated to music. So going to 12 months, are we seeing like 85% is still going to be supporting music, but 15% is going to be the other instructional areas? I'm looking for like an actual breakdown of that.
I couldn't tell you what the exact breakdown is. The person's been here a few weeks. But
Oh, so you moved her this year?
she's moved already, correct? The retirement was as of December, I don't remember, 23rd or something.
But we
So-
did fund it for this year at that role.
And the need to fill the vacancy was now. So I felt it was a great opportunity to make that adjustment.
What is the role that retired?
One of the instructional clerical staff. We have two.
I don't think that that's an actual job title.
It's a clerical here in the instructional department. They work for all the departments. They work for Janine, they work for Dr. Parrish.
I mean, there's a lot of
math
clerical
depart-
support at central office. So I would echo that. I don't think it's, fair to say that it's the only department that has secretarial. Finance has like 7 support staff. Human
Right.
resources has support staff. You have support staff. So if program directors don't need any clerical, would it be fair to say that a possible adjustment would be to
They all
remove
need
all of those?
No, they all need clerical. So these two positions at central office service math, science, social studies, music, art, literacy, the deputy superintendent. I mean, that's what they service.
And on page 25 in the budget book, we do have the 3.0 instructional services secretaries, and there is the specific line there for music.
Which page is that?
25.
Okay, thank you so much, Jen. Thank you. Okay.
I mean, these are folks that have existed for years and years and years. We have automated, computerized, digitized. We can't expect that we need the same number of folks when we're trying to create all these other efficiencies. This is not going to impact, as we received emails, the number of students who qualify for the Western Regional. I mean, that's just, I just don't understand. That happens in the classroom. The teachers that reached out to the individual to do certain things, order certain things, same process they did before. Send her an email, pick up the telephone. She's available. I mean, she was housed in one building. She didn't travel to the other buildings.
I understand.
So, I mean, we're trying to find efficiencies. That is something we talk about every year at budget season. And every time we find efficiencies, it may not be the efficiency someone likes, but no one likes the efficiency when it involves their department or something they covet or they find to be important. But these are decisions that have to be made, and this is the perfect time to do it. It is done through attrition. I don't know what other way to do it if we can't do these kind of things. But we could put it back in and we'll bump the budget up some more.
You want me to keep going? Okay. I'm gonna go to C unless somebody else has anything on that? No? Okay, sorry. C39, the coordinator, the 4.0, the 0.40 increase this year and for next year has to do with the world language and multilanguage learners. Can you just explain this?
Yeah, similar to what we had a reduction in the line in world language, the need for teachers, a 0.4 reduction at Ludlow High School,
Mm-hmm,
as part of some of the budget cuts from last budget season.
mm-hmm,
And so the ML department was being overseen somewhat and led by Mrs. Goss, not in her wheelhouse. And we paid two stipended positions at almost 9,000 each at secondary and elementary. We eliminated those stipended positions, and Ms. Jaskar, who is head of the World Language Department and is dual certified in TESOL, is now coordinating, similar to what Mr. Hughes did prior with music. She is now supervising and leading both departments. So we shifted away from the two stipended positions because if we took the full reduction, we would have lost her altogether.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, a couple of years ago, you had proposed combining like world language and MLL and PE and health, and the board decided not to do that. So just from a structural standpoint, that is in fact what you did here.
In this case, yes, because we had an individual who was dual certified.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand the next question, C40. So just to make sure I've got it here, I was counting the 11 all in. So just to be clear, the breakdown of this FTE, I know it's kind of confusing for people who are looking for STEAM and gifted, but it's because they came out of building into a district line. And I saw 11, but actually the middle schools have 0.8, 0.8, 0.6. So that's taking us to the 12.2. So we're flat funded in terms of FTE, and the increases are just to the salaries as they would normally be. I just wanted to confirm that is accurate.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I know I asked it later on in the sheets, but just the combination of these seats, the model that we ultimately went with, any regrets on not moving them or just how that's going?
No regrets whatsoever.
Okay, so in the building is preferred.
Correct.
Sorry, did you have a follow-up? I'm gonna keep, I've got a lot, so if you want to jump in, jump in. Go ahead.
Just on line 50 on page 17, I did not put this question in, so no rush to answer. I just wanted to point it out. For the 25-26 school year, the teacher psychologist at Walter Fitz was budgeted at 1.0, was modified to a 0.5. It's now modified again for the proposed to a 1.0. But when you go to the budget, it decreases by a pretty significant amount. I don't know if that was the intent to go back to a 1.0, if that's the caseload. I'm just curious if you could kind of reconcile. So on line 50, if you look, if you go straight across. Oh, page 17,
Oh.
excuse me. I'm so sorry.
I was
Line-
looking at
You gotta get-
I'm so
1650
sorry.
and
Yeah, I
I'm
think
confusing
that-
everybody.
I think that's
So
that's
it's
an
page
error.
17, line 50, Walter Fitzgerald campus. If you look to the first line, teacher psychologist, 25-26, it was 1.0. The modified is 1.5. Next year's is 1.0. And it just looks a little, I'm just curious what the need,
That's, I think that's an error.
I think it's an error and I just wanted to point it out, but if there is a need there or something, and then I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah, I think that's an error because we didn't make any adjustments to the psychologist.
That's
The-
what I assumed.
The only adjustment that we had made at Walter Fitz was to the school counselor position.
Okay.
We went from a 1.0 to a 0.5 and based on the individual who's there who requested a 0.5 and the need being a 0.5.
And once again, without that revised line, for some of us who have been doing this for a while, that's where we kind of track and notice movement from. And it's more just to track that all the needs are being met by students. So I just highlight it for that. I have more questions too, but I'll throw it back.
But just to continue, and also checking the numbers,
Yeah.
160K does not look
Yeah,
right.
it looks weird.
Mm-hmm,
And then we have someone for 57.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, the 57,
That can't be right.
yeah, that can't.
They
be
Well,
can't
I
be
don't
right.
think the 57 is right, but I don't think the 160 is right either.
Yeah, I just think that whole line might need to be looked at, is why I pointed out. I highlighted the
Yep.
whole thing.
Good.
So that was just a catch. I think it made,
of it at
I'm gonna, I'll add it to the edit sheet.
Yeah. Mrs. Flynn, did you have another?
I had a question. Oh, sorry.
Okay, back to Mrs. Jacobson.
The Woods counselor on C43, it says that an additional counseling support was given to Woods 2 years ago and that it's no longer needed. Is that, I'm just curious what the assessment was of no longer needed meant.
We gave additional support a couple of years ago. They were struggling over there. There was some other staffing issues that were going on and those were stabilized. We also have the addition of the split assistant principal, Mr. Goodison, who has an extensive background, as everyone is aware, special education. So we felt that it would be appropriate. So that we have a split position now, school counseling that goes between Woods and Roger Ludlow Middle School, and
Okay.
it was working out beautifully. The individual did happen to leave the district a few weeks ago, but we are hiring for that position now.
Okay, so they don't, you're comfortable with them having less?
Less than, we went back to what they originally had, yes.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna move on to the evaluation numbers here, and I don't need well, I do have a question. Right now, we have 4.0 evaluators.
Can you
special-
place us with the question?
Sure. Oh, sorry. It's C44, and you're gonna be on page 16, 17, and 18 of your budget book. I'll let everyone get there. 16, you're gonna find it under Ludlow. 17, you're gonna find it under Ward and ECC. So currently what we've done is in this budget book currently that we have today, is that we have 4 sped evaluators. It's been modified this year to 6 and carried forward next year for 6. But it is a very high increase in dollars. It's a 67% increase budget to budget. The 4.0 right now, we budgeted 396,592. The 6 next year is 662,128. That's a difference of plus 265,536. That's a 67% increase budget to budget. So, sure, there is a need, but I'd like to understand this incredibly high need. And if this is a trend line so first let's just talk about why did we need 2 more extra this year than what we budgeted?
I'm gonna do my best to
Okay.
answer your question because I got lost in the question trying to answer it.
Okay.
So I tried to answer the question the best I could in explaining the staffing models at each of the levels for our initial evaluation teams.
I appreciated your extensive answer. I just want to know about the evaluation roles.
Rob, can you just, because I think the question is good. I think your explanation included folks that were already
Right.
here prior to
The
the
only
middle school when we created the evaluation team.
The only new position in all of this is one special ed teacher at the middle school initial eval team.
All right, so let's go to our budget.
That
first.
is the only new position to
Right,
all of
and
this.
that's what I was getting at, because I think we recategorized these folks from the previous budget book, because we added the one position at middle school, because what we found was our coaches, our interventionists were spending so much time, that was the feedback from the middle school principals, on just doing evaluations, that they weren't getting to working directly with the students. So by adding the position, the special ed teacher, they would be part of the initial eval team. So those other folks could actually do their jobs.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a request. I can put it up, I will put it up as a follow-up question. I would like a chart. Current budgeted, current budget modified, what you're proposing next year. So all the pluses and the minuses and the movement and all of that. So I'm sure it sounds to me like you're saying there's an offset in here somewhere.
Well, no, they just lived somewhere else previously, and now they're,
So then it should be shown
Correct,
somewhere.
correct,
Where
yes.
they're not living anymore. And that is what I would like to understand.
and we
Just so I
can,
know, you're talking specifically about the sped eval.
Yeah, and
yeah,
just
okay.
if
the
there's,
evaluation
if there's
team,
all
yeah.
these other people involved in this and what it
Yes.
is.
I
so
get what I knew when you asked the question,
What I was
and
getting at.
his answer looks like we hired all these additional positions that already existed. I
I
don't
just want
know
to know why we're
exactly.
going from 4 to 6. And if there's.
We
an
went from
offset.
5 to 6,
No, there's budgeted 4,
right?
budgeted 4,
Right, they lived some, the
Yeah,
other one lived
there's-
somewhere else, and then the one that added
with a
to,
different title.
yes. Well, as a teacher, just somewhere else.
I get it.
We've
And then
reallocated
the
our staff.
additional-
All I know is right now in this budget book, we have 4 sped evaluator roles. The modified is 6 sped evaluator roles. So if there's title changes or whatever it is, I will put it in the sheet. I just want to understand because it's a very large increase.
Okay.
And then just further to that though, what is driving that?
Back in 2018, we had a special education audit done, and one of the recommendations out of it was to consider initial evaluation teams. We created an initial evaluation team at the high school out of that. That has been very successful, the high school initial evaluation team. Staff has been requesting at every level that we create initial evaluation teams. This year, we created an initial evaluation team at the elementary level and at the middle school level, because we've already had one now at the preschool level and at the high school level. So in terms of staffing that, we were able to reallocate staffing or utilize existing staff in school buildings that the staff that we need for initial evals are already assigned. I know that might sound convoluted, but the only staff that we hired for all of this was one special ed teacher for the initial eval team at the middle schools.
Okay, it just doesn't appear that way in the budget book, so
Okay.
that would be helpful.
Okay.
And are these sped certs or psych certs?
Special ed teachers, school psychologists, and speech pathologists. That's your core team for initial
okay.
evaluation.
All right, thank you.
And what's driving that, just to your question, is just the number of referrals for evaluation that continue. As we know, the prevalence rate is going up. The number of students that are being referred to PPT continues to grow.
Ms. Jacobson, I had 2 follow-ups, if that's okay, Mr. Krasnov and then Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this up, Ms. Jacobson. Because I had a question on 62, the teacher sped eval, the 2.5 that is new or looks new, for 370,000. That was gonna be one of my questions, and I will be honest, there was so much here, I couldn't understand what was going on in this part of the question. Is that what we're discussing here? I'm still not even 100% sure. Okay. So the fact is, this is basically one elementary and one middle that's being captured here, that's not being captured now in the elementary and middle. It's just in pupil services, correct?
So what we'll do tomorrow is we'll pull all the folks that are on the initial eval teams and then see where they lived previously in the budget book to try to give you and then the one additional was that we hired, but we did have a reduction in another area, but we did hire for a special ed teacher for middle school to be part of the team. We did.
Awesome. Thank you for the clarity. It looked like a very big number being added, so I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Mrs. Flynn?
Thank you. It's really great to hear that that came from the audit and you're having good findings at the high school. So that's already been rolled out. The high school's rolled out
Since,
since the audit ish.
yeah,
Ish.
it's since prior to COVID.
Oh, wonderful. The middle and elementary school evaluation teams that are in this budget, are those rolled out right now? Are those currently operating?
Yes,
How are they going?
very well.
Great to hear. It makes it a lot easier. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Jacobson? I had one on something completely different, but all right, I've got to find it again. So I'm not saying this is going to be a popular question, but for $500,000, I think it is worth asking. And so that was the question. Where did I find it? C93. And at the time that this took place, this involved the middle school staffing at a cost at the time of about $500,000. I don't know what it is now. I didn't try to go in and crunch those numbers. I don't find the answer to be something that makes me feel good about the investment. I do not question that it is accurate, that anecdotally we have gotten positive feedback. At the time, some of my criticism of this had been making meeting time a bit easier was not a compelling reason for me to invest $1 million. I did not, it's not that I was against the team model at all. I absolutely think it is important to have that communication to get to know these children well and support them through middle school. However, the idea of teachers either teaching only in one team or only teaching one grade level, once again, I do think it would be really valuable for this board, maybe even to do some homework of looking at some of the investments that we've made over the past, 5, 6 years and questioning, is it achieving what we want? Most importantly, is it a nice to have, or is it actually tangibly affecting student learning? So I don't know that anyone is ready to give me that kind of an answer tonight, but because I know this comes with such a tremendous price tag, and I also know that one of the results of this is that the school, which based on test scores would indicate the greatest need for smaller class size, has easily the largest class size of our 3 middle schools. And the other 2 schools have significantly smaller class sizes as a result of this or in large part as a result of this $500,000 plus investment. I again have to question the analysis, which is only at this point, we have gotten positive feedback from both schools. And so again, I'm not asking for more right now because I think that might need more information and talking to more people. But I just want to raise that is something I'm going to be asking a follow-up question for in terms of wanting to hear more. Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you. I was a pretty avid supporter of this in the budget. I continue to be both as a board member and as a parent. I'll just speak to that experience. I would also just note that while I very much appreciate your point that we have one school that is a bit of an outlier, I would much prefer to give the additional support than to take away the team model for our other 2 much larger middle schools. I would also make note that when I look at sheet number 167 and page 167, and I'm just doing one final check, every class size that I can see on here for our middle schools is lower than our elementary school ratio.
Wait, I don't understand that point. Many of these.
There's no middle school class size that is 25. There are lots of elementary school ones that are.
I don't think that's relevant to this point, but I appreciate your observation. I also would say that this did not secure the team model. The team model was already in place. This added extra so that, for example, as I recall, there was no serving on two models, but this did not impact whether we had a team model or not. So it's not that if this, okay, I'm not saying that I'm proposing a cut. I'm saying I want to hear more to know that this was a worthwhile investment. But if this went away, it's not that the team model would go away. I don't want anyone in the public thinking that that is what I am broaching as a topic. Sure.
But by utilizing teachers on multiple teams, they would be having higher caseloads and more students to service, correct?
It depends on how it is set. They are, no matter what, they're each going to be teaching as they are contracted to do about 100 to 125 students. That is not changing. They're not getting a larger class size. They are changing how many of their peers they might be collaborating with. And if I get some data that shows this is very tangibly impacting the educational results, that would be something that's worth over $500,000.
I totally agree.
So that's my point. But thank you, because I do think it's very helpful to give this data since two members haven't been a part of this, and for members of the public to know what I'm talking about. Mrs. O'Neill.
That's exactly what my question was. I just wanted to know if you could explain exactly what that $500,000 investment was.
Sure. So at Fairfield Woods Middle School and Roger Ludlow Middle School, they had two less teachers in grade 6. As we know, 6th grade is covered under the cert from K6. So those teachers taught either multiple subject areas or multiple subject areas, period. They couldn't teach multiple grade levels because they're not 712 certified. So we added 2 teachers to both to complete the teams, so that just like at Tomlinson and just like the other clean teams were operating, there's 1 language arts teacher, 1 math teacher, 1 social studies teacher, and 1 science teacher for that team. I'll get some information. I mean, it's hard to compare apples to oranges, but we don't know what the effects would have been if we didn't make the change. I can just say from many years in middle school, having a team approach to a non-team approach definitely has educational benefits.
But in terms of the team approach, this simply made bigger teams. It's not that it impacted the team approach. So a team of 3 became a team of 4.
Correct. And as I mentioned, we've been able to retain those teams where in the past we had consistent turnover because the first chance someone got, they left.
Mrs.
So
O'Neill?
just so I'm clear and the public is clear, before this change was made, on some teams, there was, for instance, 1 teacher teaching social studies and language arts, and now there's a dedicated teacher for all 4 core subject areas.
Bingo.
Thank you.
Which also, to be clear, had been the model for years. So we have plenty of, again, I wasn't looking to debate that because staff had no notice of this being a discussion topic. And I obviously think all of us would want our discussion to be informed by their input. I can imagine what it would be, but regardless, Mrs. Flynn.
I think it's important to note that was a reduction that was made, I believe, in 08, 09. That was it 8 or was it late?
Much later.
11, 12, I don't remember, but it was a reduction. I'll find the year. I'll put in the sheet.
Dr.
I'm gonna
Dr.
follow
Parrish
up.
has some to weigh in on.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. That change actually happened under Mike Cummings.
Right.
In his last year. So, when I came on board in 2000 actually, the team model and the way that it's currently set up had already existed for several years where each teacher taught a specific subject. In Mr. Cummings' last year, as he presented the budget, that was one of the changes that happened then in terms of the teachers being paired up or teaching 2 subjects. What was difficult was not just the meeting time, it was them being split between teaching 2 different curricula. So for a math teacher, they not only had to figure out and navigate the math curriculum, but also the science curriculum. And then when it came time to actually go to to your point about meeting time, they had to pick and choose which one they were going to go to. And they only have, in some instances, 1 or 2 a month. So that's where that's the meeting
Mhm.
time reference that
No,
you were
and,
talking
and
about.
which I remember that discussion, but also just as a reminder, what they are being asked to do in sixth grade is exactly what K-5 teachers are doing, which is what their certification is in.
It's what their certification in, but their curriculum is set up differently in terms of how it's
I'm
structured.
sorry, but it's not like me. I'm not being asked to teach an algebra
Correct.
class. I'm trained in a
Correct.
subject. That's what I'm trained. That is not what there's a. So again, I apologize. I wouldn't. Actually, I think this was a very good discussion and good preparation. If this is something I'm interested in pursuing, and I would like more information about it. As I said, just hearing positive feedback to me wasn't a sufficient endorsement, and I'm going to repeat this, of over $500,000. So, Mrs. Jacobson.
Sure, just a little more context for our newer board members. So what happened is that for a particular year, there was a lower incoming grade 6 in that year. We had budget cuts. So that staff is what happened that got down. And when Mr. Testani came back, we restored it so that the challenges that were happening with those teachers across those teams and across those grades and subject areas were addressed. So that's how it kind of happened, is that there had been a smaller sixth grade class. We had a budget cut, did that FTE, and basically it was a restoration of what we had before.
Okay, that's it from my staff. So I know Mrs. Jacobson deferred to me to take on questions. Anybody else under staff salaries? And again, I just want to remind everyone that does not mean this is the end of talking about staff salaries. It would just be an indication of if we can move on to benefits. Mrs. Jacobson.
C49, I'm going to go to the new unbudgeted role that has been created that I just want to get a little bit of clarity. And I see, thank you, I did not have a chance to look at the additional handouts that is kind of helping me with this question, but I just want to clarify that this new, what is it called? Assistant Director of Security and Operations is only for this year. It's not in the budget book for next year, right?
No, it is in the budget book. It's been in the budget book. It's Mr. Morbido's former position.
Okay, so I'm looking at this backup, the handouts. And you've got an assistant director of finance at 0 for this year, 1 for next year, and then 1 for this current year, actually modified. And then it says assistant director of security and operations, 0 that we budgeted, 1.0 that you've hired this year, and then 0 for next year.
Yeah, it should be, in fact, the security director. When we run the reports, we run them at a point in time, and the position had not had like a position number in Munis. So when we ran the reports, it had Sal's old position name. But
So
it
can you
should
show
be-
me in this budget book where the job is?
Yes, it would be. Well, it's misprinted in the budget book, is what I'm saying. I have to
Okay,
get the
so
page. It should be, yeah, the director of, what page does this question reference? I'm sorry, because it's page 22.
So we've got executive director of operations, and we've got a
Yeah.
director of construction and energy services. It goes 101.
Yeah, so the director of conservation and energy services, that will go in the Board of Ed proposed book, that will go to 0. And then the position should say, the deputy director of security and operations. So the name's just going to change here from director of conservation and energy to deputy director of security and operations.
Okay, so the salary here says 125 in the Q&A on C49, but what you have here in the book says 150.
125, no benefits.
Okay, so if the board is interested in actually making this position, it would be the edits would be to change the title and the salary.
Well, the position already exists. We're just changing the title to reflect what they actually do, because Mr. Morbido, as we all, for those that were on the board, was supposed to be doing school security as part of his responsibilities, which now this is reflective of the actual job responsibilities, which is school security, as well as assist Angelus, which was desperately needed. And not going to comment any further on that.
Okay. I just have a question. So is this, I asked for a job description, so can we get that, please? And then I know Mr. Morabito, or this current position, is very knowledgeable and quite successful in my experience anyway, in working with Oscars. So does this person have that experience?
No, that person doesn't, but that's going to give Mr. Angelus Papa George more time to work with Oscars because we cannot rely on someone who's no longer here anymore. So between the entire department, we will have school construction, school security, and daily operations and maintenance all covered.
Okay, and did this position get posted?
It's an interim position now, and then we're going to post it in the spring if just wanted to get somebody in there as quickly as
So
possible.
the person that you have in here, you didn't post for that job?
Correct.
Why not?
It's an interim position, and then we're going to post for it. Because I had an opportunity to hire somebody that has extensive experience in school security and operations, and Angelus needed help.
Can I
Oh, wait, I'm still on C49. Oh,
Can
oh.
I formally request an executive session needed next? My mic isn't on. Typically this time of year, we have an executive session in regards to security. We did not do that this year. Typically that's done after new members are elected in November, December. Obviously, we were without a chair for quite a bit of time. So I would just formally request that we could do that.
I mean, the role is to oversee school safety and security as one of their responsibilities. As far as the PD, they're going to work directly with the PD as well in collaboration. There's nothing that can't be discussed in terms of the responsibilities in public. That was a recommendation that we have a dedicated individual from our police department. And now we have somebody that has not only law enforcement background, but also I would consider probably one of the top school security folks in the state of Connecticut.
I'm not questioning the role, the
No, I know.
responsibilities, anything like that. Anytime our police department is referenced, I would like to go into executive session. I just think that that's a good way to do it.
Follow up, if I may. Why isn't this in the police department budget then? Why wouldn't we want this housed with
Well,
the
Mr.
police
Morabito
department?
wasn't in the police department
But it's a
budget.
different job.
Well, it takes an expanded role on safety and security, but it also gives us latitude with our other daily operations. We have a lot of projects, as you know, coming up that Mr. Angelus Papa George needs some help with.
All right, so it's not in the police department on the town side because it's not purely security.
Correct. Neither was Mr. Morabito. It wasn't purely security. No, I know. I'm just making that reference so people understand there's a line of questioning that makes it seem as if.
I think there's a line of questioning because you hired a person that wasn't posted. We weren't told about it. We got notified of a new hire that we didn't budget for in terms of that specific role outside of the budget book. And we got an email and we didn't have a discussion at it before it happened. That's probably why you're getting questions on it.
And I'm happy to answer the questions. I'm just saying we have the money budgeted. The position was intended to be one thing. It wasn't actually functioning that way, and now it is. And we made sure that the roles and the title is on par with what the expectations are, so everyone is clear. So now, when a school, for example, today has had an issue over the weekend at a basketball game, they know directly who to call and who to respond to, whereas before they didn't. And so we're getting immediate results from the title change as a result of that happening. So I'm comfortable in answering the questions.
Okay, Mrs. Flynn?
Thank you. Just a follow-up to that just confuses me a little is he now the person people are reporting to for security or is the head of our SROs? I just want to make sure the public, our board, our school administration know, like, if you were to look at this budget book, the name title isn't even changed. I wouldn't even be aware of it unless we got your email. So I think, to be fair, like I said, we did not have an executive session. This is a large change. I would just like to hear it fully explained to the board.
Okay, the security guards that we have in-house do report to this individual, correct? They do not, they never reported to the police department. They report to this individual. The only people that report to Sergeant Stahl are the school resource officers because they are law enforcement officers and they report to their commanding officer.
Okay, any other questions on staff salaries?
I just have a follow-up to that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make the point that I think it's been made clear that the position is, relatively the same and expanded on. And from personal experience, Mr. Morabito did a tremendous amount in security that we won't go into here. But I just wanted to make the point that when a position is replaced and if a job description is changed or a title is changed, the board generally does not get in the weeds with that. That's what we hire and pay a superintendent and staff for. So I would argue vehemently against having to micromanage every hire that we do, understanding that the public deserves to know what the positions are. But I think I would applaud that we've got somebody coming in here that can expand on the duties and help Mr. Papa George and get the job done and then more.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Asa.
Just one follow-up.
Other questions? Mrs.
I'm
Jacobson.
just gonna follow up. This is sitting in, what bucket? Admin? Is this in central office or is this in school admin? Pardon?
For supervisor manager category, 109.
Okay, and is this house in central office then? Sorry, Mr. Testani.
Yeah, he has an office here, yes.
So when you post for it, will there be a hiring committee for that? It's a central office administrator, yes?
Sure. I mean, if that's what you want.
All right, do you want me to keep going, Mrs. Maxon Canal?
Sure.
Sure, I'm gonna move on to C60. So I asked that there's a couple titles that I was just interested in. The difference between the 1.0 technology specialist in maintenance of plant and the 3.0 technology specialists in technology services. They kind of the same name, but they're in different categories. So it says there is no difference except some job responsibilities. So I guess that's what I'm getting at. What is the difference between those roles?
Repeat that.
Sorry, C60. There's a technology specialist in maintenance and there's 3 technology specialists in technology, same title, different departments per se.
Yeah, Ed Giles, who is part of the IT department, but did a lot of work with maintenance in terms of changing out cameras and those kind of things. He now, a little over a year ago, moved his office from the IT department to the maintenance offices, and so he continues to operate in the same role, but he has maintenance responsibility, so to speak, because he does some of that physical labor.
Got it. Okay, so similar types of support, but just for 2 different departments, so to speak?
Well, he's doing the same thing he was doing previously. We just categorized it where he actually lives now.
Okay.
Nothing changed. This predates even Marco becoming the IT director. It
It
goes
was just
back.
the same titles and I just didn't know if there was actually different.
No, he's doing the same things he's always done. It's just now correctly reflected in his title.
Okay. All right, we're gonna go to page 35 in the budget book, guys. Sorry, top of page 36. I got super confused and I just want to clarify it also for other boards as well. All right, yeah. So the personnel services, and so number 67, 68. So you got personnel services and superintendent's office. So we've got a human resources support person, but in our current budget book, that is called an administrative assistant. So your answer was that you just changed that title.
No, wait, superintendents, that there's been no title change there. That's a misprint.
Okay, so
That,
that's
if I
under
could
the,
just interject for a second.
Oh.
So
Yep.
that's just a description of the object and it was miscategorized. So the object description has been corrected and it will be in,
okay, so under
pages.
personnel services, will human resources support go back to administrative assistant?
it's administrative support.
Administrative support, okay. And then it said, for human resources coordinator, I believe that was called a personal assistant. Like these names all changed from our current budget book to this budget book. So I'm totally confused.
Yeah, so in going through what we found that if there were corrections that needed to be made from the Munis system in the budget book, that my predecessor would go into the spreadsheet directly and make the changes to the description to adjust them. The problem is that when that person leaves, what's in the system is still in the system. So
Got it.
the descriptions that we're finding are the descriptions that were in the system that seem to be manually adjusted outside of the system. And so we need to go back and adjust those because we didn't make any manual changes. We want to fix them in the system so we don't have to worry about doing that.
All right, so again, so will it become administrative assistant and human resources support as it is in this current budget book, or is it moving to this?
No, it should go back to as it is
Okay.
in the current budget book.
All right, under the superintendent's office, there was an answer that it was an error, that the human resources support role should read administrative assistant.
That is the same object and it will read
Okay.
administrate. Yes.
All right, gotcha.
So
And then-
just as point of reference, we've done our best to try to automate things. So things are coming and being extracted directly from the system. So it's live, accurate data that humans aren't touching. So this report had always been done manually. So I done my best and Frank's been of immediate assistance, just making sure that things are automated. And it's much easier to grab the information and the information is much more accurate.
I can
It's not-
appreciate automated for efficiency purposes, but we also want to make sure that it's
absolutely.
reconciled
Yeah,
so that there's like this,
absolutely.
right? So with a human eye on it, right?
Correct.
The family and community liaison was under the superintendent's office here, but it's not showing up in this budget book. It's just kind of like gone. I know, but like, I'm just saying, so again, I track budget to budget. So the current budget book has family and community liaison. Oh, because you're saying it's gone now because it moved. It's no longer in that area and it's somewhere else. We still have a family and community liaison, right? It's
I'm
just
sorry,
not
what-
in the superintendent's
what-
office?
what- Page 18.
Okay, it's in a different area? Just want to make sure we still had that role. Okay.
So a few years ago, yes, someone is
moved it.
serving in that role, but it's a school counselor. So it's a partial FT. It's not a full 1.0. It was a counselor that wanted to continue in a partial role. And
Yeah.
so when the previous person vacated the position at least 2 years ago, if not more than that, we moved a school counselor to that role. So that school counselor is still servicing McKinley and Tomlinson around engaging families and students.
Yeah, is a lot of that role still working on on attendance?
Chronic absenteeism,
and
yes.
Chronic
Mhm.
absenteeism?
Yes.
Okay. And are you finding it to have positive results? Like we're decreasing that as a result of
I
that role?
think the fact that it's a school counselor and they have that counseling background has been beneficial in terms of identifying resources and supports within a community for families, especially since the two schools are in a feeder pattern. That helps in terms of them being able to identify families that may be having issues in terms of chronic absenteeism across the two schools, and then pinpointing resources and support. So that both schools have identified that, have
Good
shared
thing.
that having a school counselor in that role has been
Great,
much more beneficial than how it was arranged previously.
awesome. All right, thank you. Good to hear. Thank you for that explanation.
Mrs. Jacobson, okay, if Ms. Flynn
Just follow up.
follows up. Go ahead.
That's amazing to hear there's school counselors in that role. Are they sharing strategies with our other schools that they're finding, or how does that collaboration piece work? I know our chronic absenteeism we see across all of our schools, so it would be nice to hear that those skills or anything she or he is learning is being shared.
So all of our school counselors are involved across all schools, working actively to combat chronic absenteeism. They don't do it alone. It's an attendance team that does that work. And so at each school, they have an attendance team and all members of that team do exactly that, share resources, strategies across schools, but also within the school in terms of what may have worked for one family versus another. So yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Can I just add one thing, not related to that? I think what Frank was trying to say is that, and Terry, that we're trying to make sure that Munis is reflective of what actually everyone is coded as, what they're supposed to be doing in the district, their salary, their, all of that stuff. And that was not necessarily the case. Some of it was being kept on a spreadsheet that never made it into the Munis system. So as we continually find errors, we're continually updating that to, so that everything at some point will be 100% correct in our payrolls and our management system. Just, just to be completely transparent.
Mrs. Jacobson.
Yep, C65. I'm just gonna try to understand the answer here. I don't know who was gonna answer, who I'm gonna direct this to, Mrs. Maxon Kennelly, but can someone please show me where in contracted services this was? Because this has to do with shifts into salaries that I'm gonna go into in a minute. The only thing I see in contracted services is for $200,000. So it's connected to this salary line item. Based on the answer, can someone tell me what that is?
I can probably answer this live, but can you give me a few minutes to just look it up and?
Well,
Sure.
would it be possible for you to put that as a follow-up question?
I can, but I just, it's gonna help me with the next part of this question because, so I just, so I'm following all of this. Again, this is why that chart would be very helpful to Mrs. Maxon Kennelly's and my point. Right now, we've got, staff at Ludlow and Ward, and you guys, if you want to follow along with me, you can find these, positions on page, 34 of the budget book, proposed budget book, under Ludlow and Ward. The security staff numbers. So right now, we've got 2 at each school for 74,326 next year. I mean, this current school year. Next year, they're proposed to go up to 94,228. Well, Ludlow's going to 924,28, right? And Ward's going to 76. And then you have the $38,000 positions as well on page 26 and 27. Right?
Sorry, I'm still looking at, can you repeat that? I'm still looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the two greeters, correct?
So
One at each school.
right, so we are increasing. My answer was trying to get at, said that there was an offset at both high schools in budget book, in your narratives, but I'm not finding the offset.
Okay, and I'm just trying to go through and
I
look
can
up.
put it as a follow-up. I
Yeah.
mean, it's in my original question and it says the shift was from contracted services.
Yeah, I'll just have to go up. I'll just have to go look at my,
Okay, no
at my
worries.
backup, so.
Okay, no worries. I can make trying to understand again, plus, minus and all that.
Sure.
Sorry, for clarity, what page 26 and 27? I'm trying to
Okay,
figure
so
out where we
quick
are.
Question. Eric.
Sorry.
On page 43 and 44.
No, Mr. Krasnoff's point is that there was nothing on 26 and 27. 43 and 44, we could see that 38 line, but 26 and 27 did not.
There is new staff, part-time employment for $38,000 each at Ludlow. Oh, sorry. There's new staff at Ludlow and Ward. Oh, wow. Part-time staff 43 and 44. With me? See those new
That's,
jobs?
that's the one we saw. There was just nothing on 26 and 27.
Page 34. Page 34. In support staff, under Ludlow, security staff, under Ward, security staff. Then also on those other pages, security staff. New roles, new jobs. Trying to understand what's happening there.
No, we have the two at each school that we budgeted that are in-house that we hire. They're Fairfield Public School employees. And then we maintain the two contracted, part-time, however they're coded in the greeters at both schools. When you come in and you sign in, not, well, now with Raptor. But the two other security guards from we upped those in previous years to our own folks.
All I know is
that was
I'm
on
looking at
page 60?
I'm going from 2, right, with an increase under here under support staff. And then in part-time staff, 2 new roles for $38,000 each.
So the question is on page 43, those two, 43 and 44, the two positions at 38,000, Mr. Tassani is saying are not new positions, but we can't find where they previously existed.
They were and they still are contracted.
But
You-
where
you
did
can-
we pay for them?
You can
Where-
see it in Walter Fitz, one of them. If, on the same page, 34, it disappears and it's a similar dollar amount.
So.
Yeah, correct. We took the contracted person out of Walter Fitz when we hired a
But
couple
that was
years
ages-
ago.
But that was ages. ago.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago when we hired the
If,
That has
climate
nothing to do with the
specialist.
changes for next year.
so if you look
I'm
at
so- I'm
page,
sorry.
if you look at page 60 under
Thank you.
Department 64, you'll see safety and security expenses.
Right, so there's a so the 52
So there's a decrease there, but
of 31,000.
yes, but that line doesn't just include the contracted services for security services. It includes other things. So where I'm getting the offset of the similar amount is in the central budget entry detail. And so there's other things that are going up, that is going down by a similar amount. And so that's why I put the note about the offset.
All right, I'll put the follow-up in because I'd like to just see. I can see the budgeted increase in the salaries for the FTE position. The new ones, I can see what you're paying them, but I'm not seeing exactly where the offset is coming from. So I'll just put it in the follow-up. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Thank you.
Ms. Jacobson, may I go to Mrs. Flynn?
Of course.
Just on page 7, you guys listed for 129, it says additionally payroll for guard greeters was shifted from security services line. So is it possible that it was just shifted and it wasn't an offset?
It wasn't a dollar for dollar offset because within that account are other items that are going up.
Yeah.
So there is a net reduction of 32,000. You're expecting to see 78,000.
Yeah, I think
There
just in the
is-
context of us
Correct.
not
So
having the
what
revised
you want to
line.
see is what items are on that line that are going up that are offsetting that 78,000 reduction.
Is the $76,000 a dollar for dollar? Is the security services line and contracted services $76,000?
No, within that line, there's many other items.
No. But that specific item is 76,000 or there's more security in that line?
It's the whole line, 78,
I
224.
hear what you're saying, Mrs.
78,
Jacobs.
224.
The reduction in that line was dollar for dollar.
It's dollar for dollar.
Right,
yes.
but then
But
other
things
stuff,
went up 40K to make it a
Right.
net reduction of
correct,
21.
correct.
You okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Maxon Kennelly. Sorry, somebody had a follow-up?
Okay. Anything, Mrs. Flynn?
I had to find it, only because I had the presentation twice, both at Finance Committee and here at this table. There was a question asked, I believe it was, the C86. When, our athletic directors came before us, they said their intent was to ask for, additional clerical support that was not put through with the budget. Has that need changed? Do you guys feel like you're meeting it? It's one that I was inclined to very much to support after hearing both presentations, so I would love more insight.
So would they like to, and have another clerical and the need, yes, it's still there. We just didn't put it in the budget based on, you know, where we were at and, prior to the $3.4 million in reductions by department, it was an over 7% ask. So that was one of the things that we just didn't consider and would revisit in the future.
Thank you. Just because they came before us at least twice, I think it's good for the public, just to hear. Thank you.
Mrs. Jacobson.
Okay, summer school, so pay, question C, 66. This can be found on page 44 of your budget book. The general instruction for summer school isn't something that we funded this year, but we've got an 86,500. Just how did we go from nothing this year to that number? Sorry, I don't know who to ask that question to. I'm sorry, Mr. Testani. So it says summer school general instruction. We've had it in the past. It's not like it's brand new. It's just, there's nothing for this year, or do we have something happening this year? Like, so the summer's already passed for this year, so we know whether or not we spent money on summer school.
So we had credit recovery summer school, we had ESY, and we plan on having it again next year.
But there's no money in it for this year. We
For
didn't-
next year, you mean?
No, but why does it say blank blank for this year if we had summer school?
Yeah, we'll have to sit and look for that. We did have credit recovery summer school, so
Okay, so
I,
there, that might be something just
Yeah.
to follow up on. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I don't recall exactly, we didn't have huge enrollment in,
Mhm.
which is a good thing, which means kids are doing well in their classes, but, Mr. Craven did have,
And I
a
asked
summer program.
this in another part of the Q&A, and I can get you the number if you need it. But we've never, other districts do offer summer programming that are get ahead or whatever it might be, or even for younger kids. We used to have programming at McKinley, Kids Adventure and things like that. I mean, this is, I'm just wondering, I asked it in the budget question sheet, what, and it says it hasn't been revisited. Is that because we don't want to make an investment and we don't think anybody would utilize that?
Well, what we found at the elementary level is that it's used sporadically. That was one of the issues. That we don't get a commitment from parents to send children for the program. So we have a 18-day program. Fridays are very sparse in attendance. People go on vacation, they miss a week, and so there is no consistency.
I'm just surprised with Parks and Rec, like selling out in 30 seconds.
Well,
Like-
Parks and Rec programming's a little different, and it's not educational, so to speak, where kids can come and go. They want to go on vacation for a week and miss a week of camp, they miss a week of camp. Unfortunately, when somebody misses a week of a summer program that's instructional based, they come in, now the kids are kind of out there, they're lost. Teachers can't go.
Thinking from a revenue standpoint, we've got all these buildings and we're investing in our buildings. And I'm not saying I want to compete with Parks and Rec, but there have been programs before.
I mean, we
they're
can.
selling out, and I mean, I don't know what the
It-
cost.
Yeah, I was
but
just gonna say, I'm happy to revisit enrichment type programs
That's what I meant.
where there's a fee and that if
Right.
we hit a certain number of students, that will cover the cost of the teacher and
Right.
happy to look at it.
I mean, maybe we can talk to Anthony a little bit or whatever. I mean, there's obviously a gap in summer programming because, you see it all over moms, you see it all over social media. They fill up in a week, in 5 minutes, and people don't have care. I don't know. We just have facilities. I'm not looking to make a loss, or increase costs. It would have to be self-sustaining, but, and I don't see this as a competing with Parks
No,
and Rec because they're selling out.
Yeah, no, I get it.
So,
We also have to pay our teachers, a higher rate than Parks and Rec pays their counselors. So I think, but I'm happy to,
I don't know. Well, I mean, you're thinking educational. I'm just thinking enrichment. So anyway,
I get, no,
it's a
we're happy
conversation.
to,
I think we
we're
need to
happy
be
to
looking
look
at
at something like
diversifying our
that.
revenue, especially as we start to see federal revenue go down, or that we become a little bit less eligible for state revenue. And and what is our long-term fiscal plan on increasing our revenue versus increasing costs of the budget and then constantly looking for, you know, at programming cuts or things that are pulling staff out of gen ed and things like that. So maybe this is not for 26, 27, because obviously you're not gonna be able to pull together a program, but I am interested in how do we best utilize something that we know that there's a demand for. We have facilities is for future purposes, just how are we gonna diversify some of our revenue? So that's just an idea that I have where I know there's a demand, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to take a look at it. If it's gonna be revenue
Positive.
positive, and I mean, we can't make, $1,000 off a class, for example.
I hear you.
Happy to look at it and to see what that fee would be for parents that,
And just what would be of interest, like, obviously we can find a lot out probably from Parks and
Okay,
Rec.
I'm actually gonna
Sorry,
pause.
sorry.
No, no,
That's
I
that
actually
revenue.
submitted that as an
Yes.
N11 question
you know
and
what?
I didn't, I got a very short answer.
I jumped into revenue.
Yes, so,
Sorry.
but again, worthwhile topic, but let's
Okay.
just hold it for that.
Okay, sorry, sorry, Mrs. Maxon Kelly.
That's
totally
quite all right.
Thank
No,
you.
it was
I'm
a natural
sorry.
segue.
It
Completely
was a
acknowledge
segue.
that.
I'm sorry.
Mrs. Flynn,
Just a question on, I did not put this on the sheet and I just noticed it with a little highlight myself on 44, line 52. That first line for teacher subs for sped for our ECC takes quite a hefty jump right there. It's about 182. Do we have in-building subs for the ECC? Can we talk about their needs and if this meets it? And I don't know who that is too.
we don't have any dedicated building subs for ECC, as we do. I mean, obviously there is building subs, but not directly for ECC, no.
I would also say if you look at the actual for 24, 25, it's not as considerable a jump when you see the experience of last year.
No, that's kind of my point. And like I said, it's once again where this missing line kind of comes in, that it looks much larger, especially for certain programmatics, but it popped out at me. And if our ECC does need a building sub, is that something you guys have explored? Is it better? Is it working the way you guys are handling it?
I mean,
That population is so little. I know they're probably,
we have a high
Really?
fill rate, just across the district in general, but ECC is typically not somewhere that, we have trouble finding a substitute when there's a daily absence.
all right. So the
Yeah.
need is obviously higher, but you're able to fill it with what you're.
Yeah, I mean, we could take a look at and talk to Mrs. Bruno about,
Yeah.
just to look at how that would look since it's spread out over 3 locations and
Yeah.
not necessarily if there's maybe one location that could utilize it, or if we can, Stratfield or
Yeah.
Holland Hill maybe gets an extra building sub
Mhm.
because ECC is there so they can use it.
Yeah, I just think of our littlest learners, if we're seeing that much of a bump year over year, to Miss Max and Kennelly's point, I saw it in finance last year. If we need a building sub, that consistency for that age group, it kind of popped out of my brain that we have building subs at our elementary schools, so, but that was it.
Mrs. Jacobson.
Page 45, the top of the page, there's SEL teacher stipends that are having, obviously it's not a huge amount of dollars, but it's a pretty big increase in percentage for the stipends. What is that increase for? Specifically? So right on page 45, the very first item, Mr. Testani, the SEL teacher stipends going
Uh,
from 29 to 42.
Yeah, that's the one we discussed earlier, that some of the
Oh.
schools didn't have folks, and now we're anticipating or budgeting to make sure that everybody does have an SEL stipended teacher.
Okay. Is this possibly, I mean, I noticed, I mean, we didn't say it out loud, but I'll say it out loud. You didn't put the guidance, the elementary guidance in here, right? For
Correct.
next year.
Well,
I know, I understand.
worried.
I understand, I know. It needs to be baked. I get it. But do you envision that part of this would be continue? I don't know that this is the right role, but to work on that curriculum development and to do a needs assessment by building and by grade? I mean,
So I am gonna work with Mr. Brown and I and Vanessa. We are working to develop the curriculum regardless.
Yep.
And then, again, once those counselors are in place, if we get those budgeted and approved next year, like these stipends can go away because
but
that,
these people won't necessarily help you with any of that work as you.
they don't have the expertise in
Okay.
school counseling,
Okay.
but,
Okay.
we do
And
have
I guess
folks.
we do need to understand a little bit just what the increase really is. Yes, that was a follow-up from Mrs. Maxon-Kennelly. All right, thank you so much for that. I just wanted to understand. The clerical subs going down a little bit for, not the clerical subs, the substitutes for 250,000. Just as a reminder, and for new board members, we added this because there was a new mandate for non-certs to be able to take FMLA effective for this year, and there wasn't anything in our budget for any coverage that might need. And we had worked with finance to come up with a estimate on what that coverage might look at based on experience of our certs, of our certified staff, and what percentage looks like. So I asked this question, that's on C70. I'm just going to flag it for possibly June. It's been totally eliminated. So I guess I just want to understand a little bit, like, are you not covering those people when they go out?
The non-certified?
Right, because we added this because if we don't need coverage for them when they're out on FMLA, then why do we need them at all?
We, we're not seeing a ton of people. I mean, we got that in the answer, that are going out on FMLA. When people are going out on extended leaves, we are finding coverage for extended leaves.
Well, 2% of the 500 non-certs who became eligible,
Well,
that's not nothing.
we're not finding, the non-certs, the 500 include clerical and those folk. We don't find subs for them unless it's gonna be a long-term absence in a critical department where we would get a temp. We've done that in the past for clerical, but for paras, if it's a long-term absence, we are pulling in somebody to do that.
So have you not expended any of that $250,000?
I'm not sure what we've
And that would
spent.
be a surplus?
I don't believe we've expended any to date, but I can look at it while we're here.
Okay, thank you. That would be helpful. Thank you. Go ahead.
Mrs. Flynn?
I just wanted to ask a follow-up to C68. It's Ms. Jacobson's question in regards to extracurriculars that are being reduced at Woods and RLMS. This is kind of just a broader statement. I think we discussed a little bit in curriculum committee, I'm just kind of wondering, I know that this is based on participation and offerings. When we do see a reduction, is there a response from staff to kind of maybe readjust what's being offered to meet the needs if we're seeing a pretty large drop? I know, especially middle school extracurriculars are a very important topic to me and something that I'd like to be investing in, definitely not reducing. And I know that there are certain activities that are incredibly full and some that aren't utilized. So I just wanted to hear the thought process on how that works.
So the extracurricular activities vary each year based on exactly that, student interest, staff availability, and interest to actually facilitate the activities. So they do alter it based on those things every single year and make adjustments accordingly. There are some activities that are obviously more popular than others where they do constantly have a draw in terms of students that are interested in participating in certain activities. And as the years progress, there are certain ones that kind of had, have taken a dip. So they do adjust based on that. It's just a matter of, what the students are interested in and also which staff are available to actually facilitate those sessions.
Absolutely. I would just say for myself as a board member, this is kind of a smaller dollar area that I'd love to, I think it has a high impact area. We know that we have only one sports team available. I would love to see intramurals possibly expanded if we're not seeing people engaging in clubs that are being offered. I would love to participate or help in that for the next budget season in whatever way possible I can, or in this budget season. Thank you.
Dr. Parrish, who budgets that?
The school principal.
So the
they
school
set their
principal, based on their
allocations.
per pupil allocation,
Correct.
can you give just a couple of the other things that are allocated out of that pool of money? So extracurricular salaries, what else is allocated out of
Line
that?
items for specific departments. They allocate money towards, transportation for like the extracurricular transportation is allocated out of that. I know there were a couple questions around freshman orientation and some program. So they do all of their line item budgets and they allocate it based on what they've seen in terms of trends over the last few years, or depending on what it's for, based on student interest and staff availability.
Okay. Mr. Krasnoff?
I have a follow-up on that. What would be the procedure to separate out a separate budget for extracurricular activities? To kind of create a more robust program if we decided to go to that direction, what would be the process?
I guess I don't understand your question in
So
terms of
instead of getting-
separating out the account.
Yeah, so instead of it being lumped with other stuff, making it a dedicated extracurricular bucket that we can guide them on building a bigger, more robust program for the students so they're not, necessarily out in town, that they're more inclined to stay and do some extracurricular stuff, because it sounds like we're cutting back on it. And, as we discussed in curriculum, a lot of us feel it might be a place where we can expand without spending crazy amount of money.
So
So two different things. So
Yeah.
one, we could
People get
increase the per pupil student
Right.
expenditure. We could say instead, and I'm
they
making
only
up
get
numbers.
a bucket and they
Yeah,
split
so
up the
instead of
bucket.
$200 per student, you have $225 per
Correct.
student, which makes a bigger pool. But even then, the principal still would be deciding where that gets broken up.
Right.
But what you're saying is, what if we completely took it out of the principal's budget altogether, had it be an item designated by the Board of Ed as a point of investment?
Correct.
That just would be,
Yeah, I mean,
that's the question.
you can definitely create an extracurricular account that would be, we can dedicate, similar to athletics, for example. And we can say, each middle school gets X amount of dollars. The challenge then would be, all right, go build the program. You have this amount of money and what that program looks like.
That being said, do you think funding it that way would help build the program, or it would just be money that sits
no,
there?
it- no, I think
I want to
it-
be,
No, it could be
Fair.
helpful to say, if you don't use it for this, it goes back to the district. So,
And what do we
Exactly.
mean by extracurricular?
well, that's the thing. Are we talking about clubs? Are we talking about an
Drama,
right,
sports.
an intramural program for basketball after school, within the school, rather than, as Miss Flynn said, 12 kids make the basketball team. What about all the other kids that like basketball? We could create an intramural program in the building. That wouldn't be as highly competitive, but, yeah, I mean, we can do that. I think, it's really dependent on what staff members are willing to stay after school and what that's gonna cost to get them to do that.
I'm assuming we could create some kind of survey to just get an idea of what people would have an interest in, and then see if there's anyone available for that interest. It seems to
Yeah.
me fairly simple. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm oversimplifying it, but
For 26, 27.
no,
so-
no, no, no,
We
no.
could ask the
It's just
kids.
we're talking.
Yeah,
so
we could
I
ask
might
the
as well talk
kids
about
if we're
it.
gonna, if we were gonna provide an after-school activity, what would you wanna do? I mean, I think we could go through maybe like a student council and student-led, because then we can get better responses. Yeah.
Right? And the only reason I bring it up, it gives us a year to
Yeah.
talk about this instead of, sitting here a year from now saying, I wish we did it last year and talked about it.
We
during
can
budget
gather that
season."
data in the next couple of months
That would
just
be
to
amazing.
see, hey, guys, we're looking to start some programming after school. What would you stay after school to do?
Yeah, and then we at least have an idea of the cost and the implication. and
Same
all
with
that.
summer, yes.
Yeah.
No, seriously, yeah.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
Yes.
Because I don't want to create programs and then kids don't sign up. If they tell us, hey, we'll come for 2 weeks for this or a week for that, I'm happy to do it. And I'm sure a lot of it will be around, like you said, drama, music, and athletics.
Mrs. Flynn?
We had a really great, robust conversation about this in curriculum committee, so I would just, through the chair to Mr. Tassani, I would love to continue it. I thought it was really, really productive. Thank you.
I was even going to suggest that maybe Mr. Krasnoff and Ms. Rinaldi as chairs between curriculum and finance because obviously there are two components to this. Maybe you own it for now, but at some point it gets shifted over. So
I do.
potential topic.
Yeah, I do think the intramurals is a great place to start because in middle school, you, you have different degrees of where kids grow and, so sometimes we'll just use the little leaguers, the little league kid that is great in sixth and seventh grade stays stagnant, and then some kid that maybe wasn't as good grows, dedicates more time, and all of a sudden becomes, the high school baseball star. I mean, I've seen it a million times.
Well, and also to comment that we've even seen emails of people asking about, is there a soccer team? And if you don't make the soccer
Correct.
team, what are the other options? We don't currently have too many other options
Correct.
besides a rec.
And just as a reminder that that's also where the topic of after-school buses in middle school are a vital part of that conversation. So this gets complicated, nuanced, and expensive really quickly. That's not to say it's not a worthwhile conversation. I look forward to it continuing in our subcommittees. If we could please move back to the 26-27 budget. Okay, please keep track of your question, Mrs. Flynn, but I'd like to get back to the budget. Mrs. Jacobson.
I'm just gonna cross-reference C86 and C91. My question and Mrs. Maxon Kennelly's. We talked about it before, but just to clarify the answer to Mrs. Maxon Kennelly's, it's not 1.0 FTE at each building, it's 1 FTE shared between the two high schools. Is that correct?
Which question was that? The
C91.
C91. Oh. C91, just,
It's the athletic director, like Mike, you answered me and said it's shared, and then you answered her and it said it was 1 FTE at each high school. So that's not right, right?
correct. It's 1.0 split between two high schools.
And is that in the secretarial staff under Ludlow and, is that 10-month or is that a 12-month?
I don't know what Sean is, to be honest
So
with
we've
you.
got,
I think it is 10.
we've got 12.50 at Ludlow and, 11.50 at Ward in the secretary department. Is that where they live? Is that where that lives? Does anyone know where that lives?
I had thought that, no, if you look on page 25, but I could be wrong about this, I had assumed that that was why Ludlow had one additional 10-month secretary position, that was actually a split position, that it was housed in the Ludlow line.
Sorry,
But I did assume that.
I gotta get.
It might be.
I gotta get rid of this old budget book. Sorry, Mrs. Maxon Kennelly, do you mind
Correct.
repeating that question?
So on page 25, under Ludlow, you'll see that they have one full additional 10-month secretary over Ward. And
Actually, that might not be that
No,
because there is some arrangement that happened several years ago with staffing. Ward took on a teacher in the library media center, and because
Right, that sorted out last year.
right, but that clerical is still sitting at Ludlow.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Then I was incorrect in
So
my
it's not
assumption.
that. No, that clerical is still sitting at Ludlow.
I mean, it has to be in the secretary area, right?
Yes, it's a 12-month secretary
At,
and it's Department 41, so that's
so
Ludlow,
it's housed at Ludlow.
correct? I believe
Been
it's
10 months?
included in that
It's at
4.5.
12.
So it's one of the 4.50.
I'll have to look exactly who those people are, the 4.5.
Or is that the 0.5? That's why it's 0.5. They each have the 0.5.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Think that's it for me for staff.
Okay, anyone else staff salaries going once? Again, this does not have to be the end, just for tonight. Going once? Going, Mrs. Flynn.
Just because this was a reduction last year, we were the library media, all is good at Ward and Ludlow with library media. I see James shaking his head.
All is, yeah, I mean, the only ask that we've had was, and principals are having a discussion about that clerical staff member currently, so.
Okay, thank you.
One more time. Going once. Going twice. All right, and with that, we move on to agenda item 3D, benefits, housed original, at the macro level, pages 48 to 50, plus support pages. And in your document, we've moved on to D.
Great.
Questions on benefits?
I'm gonna have one.
As you're doing this, just to Mr. Tassani, and as primarily for our new board members, can you explain what the process is in terms of communication with other town boards once we get the definitive state number? What happened? Because obviously it is the reminder for everybody here on the board that we're making the best decision we can with the information before us, and that information is extremely live. And this is one of those key numbers. Yes, it could go up. It also could go down. So if you could just explain the process of working with the other town boards once you get that information while Mrs. Jacobson is getting ready.
Right, we've been told the most recent information is between 13 and 15%. We budgeted at 14% to be right in the middle. I think the likelihood of it being lower, and that will be communicated in the presentations to the other town boards, is that probably highly unlikely. Just talking with, and I know Mr. Krasnoff mentioned this today as well when we just talked on the side, talking to the other districts who are not in the partnership plan. They're seeing 14% increases as well. So, I'm not really anticipating lower, but if it does come in lower, we will notify the other town boards of what that reduction would look like. And we can make a reduction to the budget request at that time.
And so that just for our new board members, so what would happen, for example, if at that point the Board of Finance is working with it, if that were the timing, or if it's the RTM, we notified their leadership, we've had a change, we've had this reduction,
Correct.
we invite you to reduce it, and then we make it final in our budget book in May. So just again, that's one specific thing in this category, which we're doing the best we can with the information we have right now, but that's the process going forward. Mrs. Jacobson.
So on the question that I asked on the health insurance on D2, we have had consistently very large surpluses in health insurance over the last 3 years. I'm not going to say $1 million, but close to $1 million each year. So I asked how we were doing on our experience this year, and I know that in Q1 we had been told that there was a bit of a surplus here, but also I just want to question the answer from that we got here. So as Mr. Testani said, we quote budgeted 14, and that's what the narrative says for health insurance. But actually, if you look at our budget book, the increase is 12.11. So just to clarify, what you're saying here is that because we've had surpluses, you budgeted below the 14%?
No.
That's what how I'm interpreting your answer.
The budget number has multiple factors included in it, the amount of people that we assume, the amount of people that are on different types of plans. So the number here just reflects our best estimate based on where people are enrolled and where we expect to be next year.
And correct me if I'm wrong, as part of last week's budget presentation, we budgeted at 14%, but it's off of a lower base number of employees. And that's why ultimately it's going up to 12.1.
Well, no, there's different, like Frank just mentioned. So it's 14%, but some people are singles, some people are plus ones, some people are family. So
Does it directly correlate to a 14% increase in the
correct,
line?
correct. And this is a snapshot in time. We're comfortable with the budgeting this year. Again, what the numbers were budgeted in the past, I would just remain cautious if we start to try to cut this number, because this was actually based on who was enrolled on that date, November 1st. Terry pulled right from our system. So I'd be very cautious. If we look to cut it, we could. I wouldn't overly cut it, just that there is some risk. And if you recall last year, we needed some of the overage in the budgeted health insurance to cover in special education. But I do understand your question. when you see this, you start to say, well, were we over budgeted and just kept over budgeting because the starting point was a high number? This is actually captured from those that are enrolled from November 1st and assuming they all stay on next year.
Okay, if we have a follow-up, Mr. Krasnoff.
Yeah, just to follow up and to bring everyone kind of up to speed with the conversation I had with Superintendent Testani. In CES around this time, we typically have a period where we can sit and share information with each other and ask questions about what's going on with the budget process or any ways we can possibly save. You know, one of my things that I asked a lot about was transportation. And the overall theme from everyone with healthcare is most people are being told that it could even be higher than 14. So I feel very comfortable with this number, especially knowing that we've had a surplus. Because it could be 15, and then that surplus,
Might be, we might have
you
to
know,
adjust later on.
and we may. I don't think it's going to be lower than the number we have now. So that's just food for thought. Take it how it is. I wish I could cut it, but I'd be very scared to cut this.
The issue that's happening, because we get our report just like all the other districts get their report. The claims are exceeding what's being paid in. That is what's driving this, that there are more claims going in than the amount of money that's being contributed. So, for example, we were in the red in Fairfield. For what we contributed, we had more claim dollars than that. So that could be attributed, as we know, to serious illnesses that are quite expensive. But also just, we are an unhealthy population of people in the United States of America, unfortunately.
Also, Fairfield County's healthcare costs typically are
right.
higher, so
A lot higher.
you know, unfortunately, that hurts us.
Well, a lot higher. And I think I said this during last year's budget cycle. I had someone I know personally, same doctor, said, go to my Weathersfield office. I'll do the surgery there, as opposed to the one here in Fairfield County. And it was 50% cheaper. Same doctor, same everything, just because of the location, they charge 50% more.
Any other questions on benefits? Okay. Next, again, this is agenda topic number 3E, transportation. It begins on pages 62 to 66 and then has these support pages. Questions on transportation? Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you very much. I just have a quick question. We later in the day got a document about bus ridership. I haven't had a chance to really dig into it. The only thing I did notice is there is a lot of X's all over it. What does X mean?
Oh, man.
Did it mean we didn't take the number?
It did. We rely on the drivers to provide the information,
So
and
they
if
were
a driver has an absent driver
Oh.
or it's a combined bus, then they
Then
just put an
it's-
X and they don't take the number for that day.
I had a feel. Do you think it might be worth, and I don't know if Nick is still on or maybe a follow-up, like, is there a way to maybe do a trend line for this? I just think we're kind of hitting, like, the rubber is hitting the road with transportation. We tried to have this conversation last year. I think we're gonna have to kind of look at this. I just feel like I want more information. I think we're gonna all be talking about this a lot more. Do you feel like this is enough for us? Do you think, I don't want to put too much on staff, but to get a larger trend kind of, if we're gonna be having broader conversations?
Could you be clear what the trend, what trend line?
Just bus ridership, school bus, like, so, I don't know, week by, I don't
For example, one of those Burr X's, yes, we've got an X on a Monday, but we do have Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday data.
And we got this at 5. I'm gonna go back and look at last year's and maybe the year before, and maybe I can follow up in the document, but I just felt it was a lot of X's.
No, and so we don't.
Can I comment too?
have-
Mr. Asa?
Oh yeah, just because Mrs. Flynn referenced me, thank you. This also came up in the first finance committee meeting of agenda items for this coming year, and is definitely something that we briefly touched on and are going to continue talking about. Mrs. Rinaldi has this as a note for a future agenda item, but also I can tell you that I am confident that that Chrissy and the crew and Angeles are working hard under Mike's direction. It does seem like they're really working to try and see where we can save here and collapse routes if we can. So just from my point to answer your question, I believe we're on the right track. There's more work to do, but I think in the coming months we're going to know more. Probably not enough for this budget.
No, thank you for this insight. And kind of my concern was is that was going to be the answer, and we may need the answers for this budget cycle. So thank you, Mr. Asa.
Okay, Mr. Krasnov.
And I apologize, my question is not in the sheet, because I figured Mr. Papa George would be able to explain it the best. So what is the actual amount of dollars we hypothetically could cut? Because I know it's a 10%, but what is that 10% based on? Anything over that 10%, we're still responsible to pay the
We are
bus
still
company?
per our contract, yes. Any cut over 10% of our original bus counts, I would have to go back to the contract to look at what we placed in there as the counts at that time.
If
Wait,
there's any,
can I just ask 10% of what?
Of the number of buses. Or
Which is?
The number of routes, but I'd have to go back to the contract to see what the number of routes is listed in the contract. And I'd have to get that for you.
and I think it's also the dollar amount we owe them, end of day, it
Yeah.
breaks down to that, right? The dollar amount
Well,
owed, whether it's a
number of
bus
routes,
route or
if it's
not,
10
yeah.
routes, 10% of the total number of routes that was guaranteed at the time of the contract.
The reason I ask is because of the regular line item in 65. I see it's at 21.48, but I believe the contract's 18%. So I'm just forewarning and letting everyone know I am looking.
Page.
I'm on page 66.
Yep.
Under transportation where it says regular. I am personally inclined to drop that down to the 18%, and I am gonna propose a $200,000 cut, but I do wanna see if that's within our contract. I don't wanna overextend ourselves where we can't make a cut. And if that number has to be lowered and changed, I'm fine with that, but that's what I'm thinking in my head as of right now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I can get that for you.
Appreciate it.
And if there are any additional questions that you need, if you could just put them in the doc, this way everybody's seeing them. That'd be great. Thank you so much. Mrs. Jacobson.
Thank you for the explanation on why our tier 1 and tier 2s were going down. Tier 3s are, for lack of a better word, cheaper.
More efficient.
Okay, yeah. That word's been misused in the past, so. The pre-K tuition though on this page, I put it in the sheet, but I'm just drawing everyone's attention to it because it does serve as an offset. It was put at 300, but, on page 147, it's listed as 334. So is that change, I mean, I know $34,000 is not helping us ton on this budget, but, is that,
So from your question, we did dig into that a little bit more. It was kind of like peeling back an onion over the last couple of days, and we're still finalizing clarification on that, and I will give you a follow-up answer on that once
yeah,
we
because
have
we
that.
charge pre-K tuition, and what we've always told the other boards is that tuition for students who don't qualify for free and reduced lunch, who get free transportation, serves as an offset to running an ECC program and having, typical peers, et cetera. So it's an important piece of the conversation. So
Yep.
I just want to make sure whichever number's right is that the budget book is aligned to itself. So
Absolutely.
And
either way.
if may I follow up on that?
Sure.
If you look at question G12, something very interesting to me in the second part of your response, where I was asking about the offering of transportation to the non-disabled peers.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that they are paying a bus fee, but obviously I'd have to know the finances of they may be paying a $400 fee.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, what is the cost of those buses? Because if we reduce those two buses, if we could have that, I mean, I'm
Well-
happy to submit that as my question unless you know.
So I can tell you the quick breakdown was that what we collect for those students that are paying for bus services is well above what we pay for the buses.
It is, say that again?
The quick breakdown, the quick answer, if you will, is that what we collect for the $400 per student is well above what we pay for the buses. But we have to dig into that further because there's free and reduced, which gets no charge for
Right.
that. So if everyone who was getting a bus was paying the $400, we would be making money on it. But there are a lot of free and
Hold on.
reduced in there, so we do have to do some more digging to get that exact number.
And that's also where, to go to Mrs. Flynn's line of inquiry on the busing, is that there has to be a degree of a trend of that, of how many of the students are free and how many of them
Yep.
are free, how many of them are reduced, how many of them, not. And because
Yep.
that's not reflected in the revenue at all.
It is not. So, and that's, like I said, we started on peeling this onion just a couple of days ago, and it's multiple departments have multiple hands. So we're trying to piece it all together at this point now. We feel there was different ways of looking at it in the past, but we want to land on the actual way of identifying it and moving forwards with actual good numbers.
So I would kind of piggybacking on Mr. Krasnov's point, that's something I would be interested in, but I definitely would want to have those good numbers. If it's something that ultimately is a revenue source, then of course I would not be interested in cutting it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you could examine that more closely.
Absolutely.
And I'll just put the follow-up question in just as kind of a placeholder, acknowledging that you're
Yep.
digging into that more.
We are.
Thank
I have
you.
a follow-up, Mrs. Maxon-Canelli.
Yes, Mr. Asa.
Just if Mr. Papa George could clarify for the public why we're allowed to charge for those children, but not the general K through 12.
They are, so we're allowed to charge for the general, let me go back. So the pre-K program is not required, we're not required to offer that service. It's a service that we offer for the typical peers. So that's why we're allowed to charge for it. Whereas anyone who lives outside of the standard walking distance set by the state, we are required by state statute to offer walking on that. That being said, Fairfield does have slightly narrower margins than that we offer transportation for, but it is a state statute for K through 12, but not pre.
Thank you. That was longer than we needed. I just wanted to clarify so people that are watching this don't think that all of a sudden we can start charging for busing. Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Flynn?
This is possibly a revenue question. Considering that, could we, I know years ago, before busing was kind of an issue, we used to offer courtesy rides when it was available for people who were within the walking zone. Would we, well, it is in policy.
We offer
Um,
rides available.
Rides
yes.
available. Would we be able to create a revenue source for that? Oh, I didn't see it.
You did submit that. It's not something we've looked into, but it's something we'd be open to looking into if it's the will of the board for
I
us
was
to
just saying,
do so.
I come from a walking family. I would have paid $400 for a courtesy ride. I'm
Teach
saying,
other people, G16, it was a question.
it's a service we've heard from families that are used and utilized. If we're doing
Right.
it for preschool students, I would see it would be something to explore if we're looking for revenue sources, to your point.
So we agreed and we said we would be happy to look into it. Our concern would be we wouldn't want to change our methodology for offering buses on courtesy stops. So we don't want somebody going to a lot closer, so they'd have to be within that criteria in order to, otherwise we're creating new routes and new
Yeah.
buses.
Oh, yeah, no.
It
for
just
a
kind of
revenue
spurred my brain when
source.
you said it.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, it's okay. Mr. Krasnov?
Another one, I didn't even know how to write it in, and we briefly discussed it today. If we hypothetically wanted to purchase some vans, to offset, some of the charges we're getting for some of these charters and some of these outlying placements and whatnot, where would the costs go and how would we be able to reconcile that? Is that something you need way more time to do and we'd probably have to do next year's budget?
So one thing that we have been looking into is if we were to purchase, for example, a 15-passenger van that we could have a driver in-district staff member driving, for instance, for the CPP program, to bring kids to their work sites or something like that. It's something we've begun to explore. I can tell you initially looking at it, I mean, a 15-passenger van, I just got a proposal today from the state bid list from a car dealership. You're looking at approximately $130,000 just for the van. That's without maintenance, that's without a driver, it's without our insurance increasing. So there is a lot to it, but we're looking at every way possible to make any cuts we can to transportation.
I appreciate that. I do believe Monroe is doing it, so
Yep.
I don't know if we know anyone over there. We might be able to ask.
I could
You know-
talk to superintendent, he's a friend.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And 130 might look like nothing if by virtue of comparison, it's 210 or something,
Yep.
but, Ms. O'Neill?
Hi, sorry, I didn't put this on the sheet and it's a very general question, but I know it's one that comes up a lot with the other town boards. Could somebody just explain how long our contract is with First Student and if we've um gone out to bid with another company?
So it is 5 years. This is year one. All right, we're going into year two. We've already sent a notice through the town attorney on some issues that we're having with them. So we've put them on notice. They've acknowledged receipt of that and assured us they would improve the services. We did talk and had a real frank conversation with a possible competitor. They did look at our price list. The only thing they could say is that they would do their very best and they could improve the service. They didn't think that we would save any money with them. But they said they would improve service and they would stand by their service and the quality of service. So that is a factor though. And the fact that, 4 months in, we had to send a letter already through the town attorney with our dissatisfaction is a problem. And we are staying on top of it today. Angelus did send another notice of an incident that we sent to the town attorney, just asking and inquiring what our next steps could be. So, but we could go out to bid for better service. We're not going to get better pricing.
Okay, Mrs. Jacobson?
I appreciate that everything that you guys are doing because you're trying to come at it at so many different approaches. We're obviously interested in coming at it from a revenue standpoint. And we're going to do, or I'm going to do my part. At least I can't speak for anyone else. I'll run my analysis on this year over year. But when we have a document in front of us that says that, a bus is running with one student on it.
Yep.
We've remained to have a huge problem.
We do, and as I mentioned in the last board meeting, we've set up what we're calling the sandbox. We've worked with those numbers and we are looking at ways to combine routes. Anything with, I believe we said we started with 12 or less students on a bus. We're looking at those first to see where we can make
Including the
combine,
privates, right?
including private schools. Yep, and there's other options that we're looking at for privates as well. One thing is to combine the Notre Dame and prep run since they have a different start time in the morning. We're currently running one route to drop off at Notre Dame, and then that same bus is running a second tier to go pick up all the students for prep and drop them off at prep, where we're having 6 to 8 kids for each school on there, whereas we can do one route for Notre Dame and prep, have a first stop at Notre Dame, drop off, and then continue on to prep and drop off the second set of kids. So it's one route as opposed to two at that point.
I mean, I think that, look, we've got 6 months until a final, I mean, I don't know
Yep.
about January, being ready for this. But we cannot have a $2 million increase when I have one kid on a bus. For me. Like, and I know you know that. I'm not telling you anything you already know.
So Mrs. Jacobson,
Yeah.
to your point, we've been working, Rachel and I.
I know you have.
The
The board,
place,
yeah.
on the placemat and things like that, the slideshow. But we are taking the next couple of days to draft something to parents, especially high school parents, as to not only a plea, but just the reality of what our next steps are going to be. And they will, if people don't opt out of busing, just the fact that we may have some longer routes and we will be changing pickup times and everything else. Because to your point, these numbers, even with over enrolling the buses at the beginning of the year, it's had a positive effect at the elementary school compared to last year. Middle school, we didn't do that because they're packed. But even over enrolling, having the parking pass students opt out, it hasn't gotten any better. I mean, zero. Right, so either please do us a favor and opt out of the bus, or B, we're just going to combine the routes and we will let you know what time your new pickup's going to be. And that has to happen.
By Jan 27, by June, there's got to be a change here. So I don't know, how that helps the other boards, but, I feel like we got to change this.
And I think, we can all be proactive and advocate with our legislative body, delegation there should be a fee. Massachusetts is able to charge a fee for busing. We're able, at $400, I think if people pay and then choose not to ride the bus, fine, but we need to have some recourse because it is affecting everyone across the state. These large bus companies have eaten up the locals and they are controlling the market. And I get it, their costs have gone up, but I can't see that their costs have gone up 25%, 18%, 18. I mean, these are large increases.
They are, and I'm not looking to harm bus drivers or anything, but I just look at, we're not using them. So,
Well, that's what I mean.
yeah, that's right. Thank you.
And we're also finding some issues, and Angelus and I will talk about it tomorrow. He's aware with our charters, which we're making a shift because, for example, we had a matchup in Trumbull. It wasn't a drop off and pickup; it was a drop in weight. So we ended up paying $613 for a drop in weight, which that should have been a drop off and pickup. So we are having issues that need to be addressed.
Mrs. Flynn?
It says on here that you guys are doing work with our private institutions. It's really hard for me to hear anecdotals about our elementary school kids who are, and very much appreciate the work of reducing routes, but we have some of our elementary school students, even our middle school students, 48 on a bus and then two. So if you can cluster those together as quickly as possible, I just think like we're losing the forest through the trees. This isn't sustainable.
Just one question, just like with our classes, when we see how many people are enrolled in a class, I just want to clarify, and I don't know the answer to this. Are any of those private school numbers the result of a last stop with the Fairfield Public Schools route?
No.
Those are all standalone routes?
Those are standalone routes for the private schools.
Okay, thank you.
And just not to go into detail, but as you said, there's one student on a bus for a count, but on the route sheet, there's 22 students on that bus that we are legislatively required to offer. So,
and I reached out after we had a discussion in facilities a couple months ago, and I spoke to both the principal at Prep and I spoke to the principal at Fairfield, Notre Dame Prep now, both Preps, and they've done their due diligence. They've assured me they had kids opt out who drive and things like that. They're in the same boat as we are.
We currently have 4 prep students on assigned to buses that have parking spots. Everyone else has opted out, and it's because they don't have a regular car to take to school. So they asked not to be opt out of that service.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess what I'm going to ask is if we can work on this in 2 different buckets. One, if there's anything that could be realized in your work in the next 2 weeks that we could have as a budget adjustment, I think we would all be very open to that number as soon as possible. And in the meantime, the questions will keep going and other town boards are going to be asking them as well.
Yep.
So that if more can happen this spring, that would be great. Okay, any other questions on transportation? Again, knowing if it occurs to you later, keep the creative ideas going. They can be submitted on the sheet. Anything else? Mrs. Bardenwerper.
What is the state mandate with high school transportation? Like, could we expand the walking range of just high schools to try to reduce it?
So the state has a number
Okay.
where this is at the, what is it, it's 2 miles for high school. We have chosen as Fairfield to not adopt the 2 mile. We have a shorter walk distance.
Mhm.
What we couldn't do is say we're going to exceed and go to a 3 mile
Right.
walk. So the state has it for elementary, middle, and high school. We have our own policy on that, so we can play with it up to the state number if we chose.
Okay, so that is something we could look into.
We could.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Krasnoff?
I was never really clear on this. Is it as the crow flies or as the streets are? And
It's as the streets, and I say that as a person whose address was right on the line, and my predecessor fought that so that it would not be as the crow flies, or
it used to be though, right?
I think it was open, a little open, but
'Cause I was forced to walk, and I was 5 miles. I was
Curb to
5
curb
miles
is the
from
way they-
Staples, and I had to walk
Yes.
Yep.
through the field.
but,
Curb to curb now.
not
Yes.
as the crow
It's
flies.
not as okay.
No.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on transportation? Okay, so again, any other follow-ups you have, please put them on the sheet there. And that brings us to item 3F, the revenue section, pages 142 to 157. And on your, the last page of your packet there, so these are the N questions. One side. Mrs. Flynn?
I just realized that my questions did not import when I copy and pasted them. I went back to look just now. I didn't have enough time when we got it this afternoon, so I'll import them this evening when I get home. They must not have matriculated.
Okay, Mrs. Jacobson?
So for N2, can I consider that to be an adjustment on the revenue for the seed grant then to add the $16,000? Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm not happy about excess cost. I went to the legislative breakfast today and we talked a lot about that. So that's going, it looks like that's going down like $100,000 because we have less students who are eligible because of the threshold of the 4.5%. I see you nodding. Thank you. Oy, okay. Yeah, I know. Okay, so I asked a question and I didn't really understand the answer. I'm sorry. On the 21st century learning dollars.
What question number?
Sorry, it's N4. I'm really trying to get at that right now we have $63,000 that are paying for staff primarily and a little bit of supplies and benefits. What I'm trying to get at, Dr. Parrish, and thank you for writing up this answer, is what's not going to happen without that $63,000, or did we pick that up somewhere?
So this is year 5 of the grant. So once the grant runs out, they would have to apply for a third grant. So what it covers is part of the salaries. This isn't
So,
the
but just
entire
could explain what
salary.
this is for. It's for McKinley
It's
after
for the
school.
Wakeman staff at McKinley. But it only pays part of their salary. It does not pay the entire salary. So this salary line here is part of 5 different people's salary.
I understand.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, if they don't get the grant again, then this program at McKinley goes away?
No, what I'm saying is they would have to apply. So we have 2 21st century grants. This one is running out. There's another one that we're in
I
year
know.
2 of.
Yeah, I know. I see
So
that
they
underneath.
what they did was when they got the second grant, they just put additional costs that weren't previously grant funded onto the new grant. So if there isn't a third grant that becomes available, they would just have to go back and put that funding
So there's
back
no
towards some
negative
other.
impact to this zero?
No, it would not end the program or eliminate staff. They
All I
have
wanted to
other
know
funding
before I add
streams beyond that.
63,000. No, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so it's just a matter of where the dollars are sitting in the distribution line based on the grant, so that I don't have to worry about anyone losing anything with this.
No. no.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Mrs. Flynn?
It is line, excuse me, I just lost it. For our facilities rentals, there was I believe, oh my goodness, I can't see it. A 10% drop to question N8. The answer was McKinley and Woods specifically. Was there something that happened, or we just lost one specific? Ben, just any insight into that? Percent is like a chunk.
No, I'm not aware, for rental. The only thing I can think of, there was a decrease because both those buildings were offline.
No, it says you anticipate a decrease McKinley and Woods due to one of our renters.
Oh, yes, one of the renters has indicated that they're not gonna need the buildings as much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, that doesn't mean somebody else may not pick
I
it
was
up,
I was about to
but
say
these were our reliable, all upfront renters.
ready to go.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I
Yeah.
was just saying 10% was a huge to know off the bat that you were going to lose. I was like,
Yeah,
is it
no,
picking up?
they've already indicated that they're gonna be,
They're-
they're not gonna need it as much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mrs. Jacobson.
And 10. So this is not an adjustment, through you to Mr. Mancusi. This will just be an edit. So the reconciliation on the tuition amount reconciles to the 134, I mean, the 134 versus the 100,000? Yes, thank you very much. So that's just an edit. Okay. We already talked about summer school and all that. Mrs. Maxon Kennelly, do you mind if we expanded upon I didn't really understand the Chromebook laptop fee issue there.
So
Like why it's going up. Per se.
So what was indicated in the verbiage on page 145 is that parents may purchase a protection plan, and those protection plan fees are used for repair and parts. And so that is a dollar amount of revenue from the protection plan. So my question was, what happens when you don't buy the protection plan? You trash your Chromebook, we collect that money. Shouldn't this be a bigger dollar amount? That was the basis of my question.
And what's the
And
answer?
well, the answer is lengthy.
Someone simplify that answer because I was curious too why the fee why it's going up. To me, it signaled more damages, especially with elementary staying at school on charging carts. I was surprised to see more revenue from fees.
I think what happened is less people are taking the insurance, and more people then with damage are having to pay out of pocket. And I'm assuming that the pay out of pocket, and we may just issue them something that we already have, or that's been repaired, or that we have in stock, so that it becomes more of a
I'm not
revenue
decrying more
driver.
revenue, don't get me wrong. I
No,
just
no.
want to know what's going on.
I
so-
think more people are rolling the dice and not buying the protection and paying more
Just
out of
as
pocket.
I mean, you've got thousands of elementary students not taking their Chromebooks anymore, home anymore, so I was just surprised.
I don't think they were the ones doing the most damage. I think our middle and high school folks are the ones who do the most damage. And we've heard that. They slam it closed with a pen inside and smash something.
And also just to pointing out that basically what we're doing is we're now budgeting for a number a little bit more in line with the experience of this year and past year of
This is what-
75,070 is being projected. So now we're just getting that.
Yep,
more in line.
Marco's on this, and says this is the number we should count on.
Mr. Krasnoff.
Yeah, back to, the rental space amount. Not that it's gonna bring in a ton more revenue, but I know the custodial fees get offset sometimes, as we saw in one of the answers. Is there any way we could look to try to get a little bit more of a rental fee
Yep,
out
we are
there?
increasing the
Partner maybe?
turf field rental is going
Awesome,
up. It's
'cause-
going for, from 50 in two of the columns to 125 an hour.
So then, that being said, do we still want to lower it in this budget, or do we now want to raise it now that we're raising? I'm trying to understand.
Well, the problem is those turf fields don't get a lot of rental because of our own usage. But I can talk to Gina and Todd tomorrow to see if, what they anticipate could be reasonable. But until that other field is built, which we're hoping to have completed for the following rental season, I think we're
Like, I'll give you an example. I saw Mrs. Flynn at Ludlow Middle Turf Field, and we rented that from Parks and Rec, the soccer team that my son was playing on. I don't see why, if we weren't using it at one of the high schools, you know, it's revenue that, not that the town's not still getting, but I'm sure there's other programs looking for field space that would love to have it. And I know there's restraints with the lights and all that stuff. I get that. And off season with the winter, it's different. But I'm sure we can find, even when we pick up 50 to 100K, it would be great for this budget.
It's a lot of hours of rental, right?
I get it. I get it. I got some strong tasks for you, Mr. Testani.
Trying to do my best here.
Thank you.
Sure, Mrs. Flynn?
Just because my wheelhouse. Our quantity of turf in this town, especially for our school district, does not really qualify us to earn revenue at this. We are well behind our neighbors in terms of turf. And from the reports we got from Finance Committee, Gina and Todd were pretty clear, Mr. Testani, that our turf is used
Oh,
like,
yeah,
around the clock. So I very much appreciate it, and I can tell you that number that they're bumping it up to, I would probably want it to be much, much larger. I just fear that we don't have much time to use it.
Okay, Mrs. Jacobson.
I know people are gonna do some work on that pre-K tuition item, as a follow-up. But as a follow-up, just to give you a heads up, I will put into the sheet as a follow-up, if we could just get the, tuition rates for next year. Cause I forgot to put that in, so I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we're
Um,
going up 6%. That was from this
Across
year.
for AM, PM and full day?
Yeah, we're going up 6% is our new rate. 6% higher than this year.
All right, I'll put it in a follow-up just because I like to
Yep.
have the number. Thank you.
Anyone else? Revenue. Okay, yes, Mrs. Flynn.
I didn't put this in the sheet. I know that they had talked about, we saw a very, very large bump in gate and parking fees. I think it was 2 years ago, and then it kind of remained flat. Are you guys seeing any different trends this year? It was just kind of an interesting one for us. We talked about it off and on. It depended on like the weather on Thanksgiving. Like there were a lot of variables to that line. Was there anything you guys have been seeing?
Well, the streaming has hurt us, you know, the most, because now you don't have to go out to the game if it's too cold. Or grandma or grandpa doesn't have to leave the house. They can just stream the game and watch it at home in the comfort of their living room. Kind of like you used to probably have a lot more public come to board meetings 10 years ago. Now they sit at home and they can watch from home.
Yes, that is very true. Thank you.
And
Any others? Mrs. Jacobson.
Mrs. Maxon Kelly, and to the staff, I just wanted to thank you for rerunning the, the 2 pages that were in error. So I'll just put those in if it works for you, Mrs. Maxon Kelly, on the edit page to substitute this document for the pages in the budget book. Is that fine for an edit? Okay.
And by the way, I don't know if you had that edit. I don't remember having an edit tab before, but I love it.
I love it too.
Yeah, no, that was a great addition. Anyone else? So
we got
just
one
as,
thing right.
just as a reminder to board members, and to the public, if anyone is listening, in terms of what will happen next week. So we do have the other categories. We also have the follow-up to these. That's the first budget item. That we'll be discussing will be follow-up to these categories, moving on to the new ones. And then very important is that it's never too early to start thinking about budget adjustments that you would have suggested. It does not have to be fine-tuned by next week, but to give your fellow board members a heads up on where you are thinking, as Mr. Krasnov kind of modeled for us. Note that he didn't have firm numbers, but it was a definite line, a definite target. And then what will happen, just so you know, that the step after that will be a fervent request that in the subsequent week that you work with staff to find out and I believe we're going to have another Google Doc on that, although I need to talk with Mr. Tassani about that, but very helpful last year, that a place where that got submitted. And then our finance staff did the work that we aren't as able to do so well, which is all of the section, the line numbers, and all of that, and costing it all out. So again, the rough ideas by next week, but then in the few days after that, as quickly as possible, you have the specifics in there so that we're not doing some napkin adjusting on the 27th. That's not to say that something couldn't come up. It's the right of any board member to do that. But so that you have faith in the numbers, and also very importantly, so that staff who might have input on something, whether in favor of or in opposition to, that Mr. Testani would have the time to be able to contact them to say, hey, they're targeting blank, for example, we need to get your feedback. You've heard that a few times here tonight that we'd like, a perfect example, those SEL stipends. We put staff on notice, put Mr. Testani on notice, he can get some, testimony to that, then we can make the decision. It would be a shame to spring that on Mr. Testani on the night of the 27th, where no one has a chance to give feedback. And most importantly, that means the 9 of us aren't necessarily making the most informed decision. So again, just to let you know, Mr. Testani, a comment?
Yeah, and the budget adjustments, we already have a tab in the Google Doc
Okay.
at the bottom, so you can click through. There is a budget adjustment one as well.
And on that budget adjustment tab, the top spots are secured for you as they were last year, correct? So that if something comes up, which is a correction, whether it's an add or a subtract, or any suggestions, if any thing comes out in our conversation, correct? Remember last year there were a few, I can't remember what the items were, but I think the first 6 or 7 items on that were coming from the superintendent
yeah.
as adjustments that out of discussion, either an
Correct.
error had been found or what
But for
have
the
you.
27th, Mrs. Magson Kennelly, it's not gonna be buried in this Q&A, like it's gonna be its own standalone.
Oh,
document.
absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
But there's a tab there now, but then, yeah, it'll be its own document, correct?
But very importantly, if, for
Like it's
example, someone knew
separate.
right now, they could put that
Like
in.
just for
Mr.
the website, it'll be its own standalone PDF for the
Correct.
proposed adjustments, what passed, what
Yes.
didn't, and then finally in June, we'll have the second one.
Yep,
right?
same
Yeah,
as
okay,
last
I just
year.
don't wanna have to dig for it.
No,
Thanks,
Well,
thanks.
and to that point, if I already know a line item I'm looking to cut, but I don't have the dollar amount, do you still want it in there, or do you want me to wait till I have a more firm figure? Like, I have an idea what my dollar amount's gonna be, but
I believe that the document should be the actual number, which
Yes.
what we would like to trust is that it has been done in consultation with staff. Okay? And needless to say, there are lots of board members that anyone can reach out to if you have questions between now and then. But I look forward to seeing everybody next Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Yes, sir.
Just I opened the Google Doc back up, so
Thank you.
everybody should be able to go back in and ask questions.
All right. I fully expect to see timestamps of 1 a.m., Mrs. Jacobson and Mrs. Flynn. All
When
right.
is
If I
that
could have
open? Sorry, when is
oh,
it op-
sorry. Yes,
when
Mrs.
is-
Jacobson.
When is it gonna be open till?
Well,
I mean,
Next
is
Tuesday
it
morning.
Saturday and Sunday, nobody's working on it, right? Like, did you not start working on it till Monday? Because then
No,
you
we
should
w-
leave it open for folks.
I believe
we
it was
we
left
were
open.
working on it, but we'll leave it open. Next week, the meeting's on Wednesday,
Yep.
so we
But
can.
Monday's a holiday.
Monday's a holiday, so we'll close it.
Saturday night? It's a
No,
Sunday.
sometime we could close it late Monday morning. When Frank wakes up, he can, have a
Okay,
cup of
all right,
That'll
coffee.
be the
so
first thing I do.
Okay, so Monday morning. Okay.
Again,
I
there
mean,
probably
fine for
won't be,
me, I
there
just wanna
probably
give
won't be
other-
many questions.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Mrs. Rinaldi, seconded by Ms. O'Neill. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously 7-0. Excuse me,